Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Sean O'Connell Show. I am coming at you on a beautiful Friday morning, soon to be Friday midday, from Woods Cross. We're at the Smiths in Woods Cross, just off of the I-15 exit. We're, 90 seconds, not even. We're 30 seconds east of the freeway. Hop off on the east side. Come say hello to us. And I have tailgate passes to give away. I have Smith's gift cards to give away. You are required, though, to throw up the U. If you want a tailgate pass and or a Smith's gift card, I need to hear a Go Utes, and I need to see the U thrown up. We are the home of the Utes. This is leading up to game day, of course, an important one at Rice Eccles. Senior day, it should be kind of like this, weather-wise, I think. Tomorrow when the Utes take the field against a Kansas State team that, talented, I think well coached in a lot of cases, but it just hasn't all come together for this Kansas State squad. So we're going to get deeper into that today. Lee Sterling's going to hop on with us. Bill Riley's going to hop on with us. Coordinator's Corner is the defensive coordinator, Morgan Scally, today. And we're hanging out at Smith's all day. So if you're getting ready for your final tailgate of the year at Rice Eccles Stadium, they've got everything you could possibly need at your neighborhood Smith's. If you go to one of the Smith's marketplaces, they've got even more. That's where you can buy the grill, you can buy the folding tables, you can buy the coolers, you can get it all. Also, I'm here in front of the Christmas tree selection at Smith's. 'Tis the season for you to get your decorations all dialed in. And Smith's has you hooked up there as well. So come see us in Woods Cross, and we'll hang out. You'll throw up the U. We'll give you a gift card. We'll give you a tailgate pass. We'll all celebrate together. Show today and every day is brought to you by friends over at Big Willie's. Big Willie's, if you don't have tickets to the game, it's actually, I got a plan for you. If you don't have tickets to the game, here's what you're going to do. Come to Smith's, grab a tailgate pass. Come hang out with us pregame, tailgate, have some fun. Maybe you can find a ticket that way. Probably not, though, because most people on a beautiful Saturday afternoon are going to keep their tickets and they're going to show up and they're going to cheer this Utah football team on. And that's fine because you have a plan even if you can't get into Rice Eccles Stadium. And your plan, if you can't get into Rice Eccles, is you go down to 1717 South Main and you watch the game at Big Willie's. Tell them OC sent you and they're going to hook you up. Craft food menu. Craft cocktails, cold beers on draft, any bottle you could possibly need. Soft drinks, if you don't imbibe. They've got a rare bourbons collection, special cocktails, and the mixology from the local make at Outlaw Distillery. So that's a great plan if you can't get into the game. You see how we're hooking you up with solutions here on the Sean O'Connell Show? All right, let's get into this Kansas State matchup just a little bit. By the way, James Peterson, as usual, is producing back in our Broadway studios. He'll probably be eating my hot lunch again today, and I'm not going to hold it against him for too long, but I am going to hold it against him a little bit. Kansas State, 5-5 team who, remember, opened the season with a conference game in Dublin, which is sort of an odd situation, and got even more odd because you'll remember the extracurricular activity that was going on between Avery Johnson's actual dad and his actual older brother. They got into an actual fistfight at the game. Now, does that affect your overall outlook? A personal family issue happening for an important player? No, probably not. But it is kind of a snapshot of the way this season has gone. Is a bit of a head-scratcher. Week 2, Kansas State squeaks by North Dakota 38-35. They lose 24-21 to Army. They lose 23-17 to Arizona. Do you notice a theme emerging here, ladies and gentlemen? They win 34-20 against UCF. Grab a conference win, all right? But now we're off to a 2-3 start. Kansas State off to a 2-3 start. Already people, by the way, throwing up the U. I'm seeing people in their Utah gear. This is good news. We're getting a lot of response here in Woods Cross. But back to Kansas State. Their first conference win comes in week 5. And this Kansas State team was among those talked about as a favorite to win the Big 12 Conference this year. We did not do an official conference preseason poll because of what happened last year when everyone guessed so embarrassingly wrong and derided Arizona State, who ended up winning the whole thing, and still, in a sort of weird and convoluted way, is in the hunt to potentially be in a conference championship game. It's like a tiny little percentage, but they could have it happen again. So now we're looking at a Kansas State team that's off to a 2-3 start on the year, and then they go to Waco on the road. 35-34 loss to the Baylor Bears. And we just saw what Utah was able to do against the Baylor Bears. Now, I do not prescribe, I do not bite down on the transitive property in football because week to week things can change so much. But if you're losing to that Baylor team and you're letting that Baylor team if you're letting that Baylor defense stop you, it's not a good outlook for your season. Halfway through, Kansas State is now 2-4 on the year. Then they rattle off a couple impressive wins. TCU 41-28. Kansas, who we'll see next week, 42-17. The only loss on Kansas State's season that has been more than a one-score loss is at the hands of Texas Tech, and you almost give them a pass on that because Texas Tech has made everybody look bad. 43-20, Texas Tech beats Kansas State. And then they had a real tough time last week against Oklahoma State, who is just abysmal this year. The Cowboys are 1-9 on the season. They are 0-7 in Big 12 play, and Kansas State could barely sneak past. Now, again, that doesn't mean this Kansas State team is not going to play better against Utah, that they're not going to have a better outlook or a better outing at Rice-Eccles Stadium. But if we're talking about recency bias, and yesterday on the show I spent a lot of time talking about how when you're judging a team, what you really should be judging a team on is what has happened lately from that team. Kansas State putting up 14 points against an Oklahoma State team that has not stopped anybody, can't stop a nosebleed this year. That is the fewest points scored against the Oklahoma State Cowboys this year. Tulsa scored more points against Oklahoma State. I should say it's the fewest points scored in a win against Oklahoma State. UT Martin is the only team in the country so far on Oklahoma State's schedule that put up fewer points than Kansas State did last week. UT Martin scored 7, Oklahoma State scored 27, and they have lost every game since. Oregon, Tulsa, Baylor, Arizona, Houston, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Kansas, and Kansas State. And Kansas State made it close. Tulsa, it was a little bit closer. It was a one-score game against Tulsa. But all those other games, Oklahoma State has been wrecked. They've been demolished. So, what is going on with the Wildcats right now? I mean, we came into the year talking about this team as a potential conference championship contender. We came into the year down at Big 12 Media Days. We were talking about Chris Kleiman, their coach, being a guy who, like, hey, how can you keep him there if he continues to have success? He's highly thought of in the coaching circles. What's happening here? Kansas State had 177 yards passing against Oklahoma State. They had 107 yards on the ground against Oklahoma State. They gave up 150 yards rushing to the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Do you see what I'm getting at here? This is now going on 4 weeks in a row where I'm getting dangerously cocky in my outlook about what Utah should be able to do in this game. I'm, again, trying to temper my own expectations, my own, hey, this should not even be close. Oklahoma State this year averages 128 yards a game on the ground. They put up 150 against Kansas State. Kansas State is in a bad way right now. If you don't expect them to have a completely different flip-around outlook against Utah of all teams than what we've seen from them so far. This should be a cakewalk for the Utes. This should be another situation where Utah football smashes Kansas State. Another young man just earned himself tailgate passes and a gift card by flashing the U and giving me a go Utes. I love it. We're right out here in front of the Christmas trees. James Peterson, you're back there. You're hearing this rant, right? You're hearing me getting overly cocky, right? I mean, am I missing something here? Kansas State, I haven't even talked about how good Utah has been. Right now, I'm just looking at how inconsistent and recently bad Kansas State has been, and I'm saying this should not be a game. And if it is, then we got to stop. I'm going to have to hit the brakes on Utah might be a college football playoff team. Because if you can't smash the Kansas State Wildcats, that committee is going to be like, I don't know, guys. Never mind all that stuff we were saying about them last week and the week before and the week before.
Yeah, I think you're right, OC, and I'm with you, though. It feels wrong to be this confident, especially – and well, not especially. You'd think that we'd feel a lot more validated in our confidence with the way that they smashed two good teams, not great teams, back-to-back weeks with Cincinnati and then Baylor. You'd think, okay, yeah, so since that happened, they can absolutely smash Kansas State again. But it feels a little bit wrong to think that, lightning can strike 3 times, let alone twice, right? And it's going to have to strike probably a 4th time on Black Friday at Kansas. So, but it feels like that's the case. It feels like Utah has that kind of advantage against Kansas State again this week.
Kansas State has the 10th best scoring offense in the Big 12 Conference. They have the 11th best passing offense in the Big 12 Conference. They, with a dual-threat quarterback who in the past has been, he started his career at Kansas State as their Bird Ficklin, right? As the guy who would kind of like just come in on some spot duty and show the athleticism, bust out a huge run, energize the crowd, and then go chill for another half a quarter, and then he'd come in again. And he's obviously the full-time starter now. But with that guy, if anything, your rushing offense, and Kansas State typically has a really solid offensive line. They've had year after year after year of producing big-time running backs, in some cases NFL talent at the running back position. And Kansas State's rush offense this year is 13th in the Big 12 Conference. They are, well, I don't want to bring up old stuff. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But they are this year. Kansas State's having this year the season that Utah had last year, where what they should be doing and what they are doing don't match up. They're not even in the same stratosphere. It is a head-scratching inconsistency right now for Kansas State. When you look at Avery Johnson in particular, the quarterback who came in highly thought of, he's completing about 60% of his passes, 7.2 yards per completion is not bad, but among the starters in the league, it doesn't put you near the top. Now, to be fair, Devin Dampier is even lower than that, but we know what Devin's strength is, and that's the passing efficiency rather than hitting on the big throws and things like that, right? He's taking care of the ball pretty well. He's got the same touchdown-to-interception ratio, actually, as Devin Dampier does. His rating is right now at 136.3, which, according to the Big 12 Conference, puts him at right below Devin Dampier. So, he's your dude, right, that was supposed to be kind of the workhorse that carried this Kansas State team to great things this year. He was supposed to be that. And he hasn't been. Now, the difference between when you compare those numbers and you look and you say, okay, well, he's not – Devin Dampier completes a significantly better percentage of his passes than Avery Johnson. But aside from that, they don't have wildly different numbers. So why are the results so different? And it's what's happening around him. It's what's happening with the other talent on the team. It's what's happening with the weapons at his disposal and with the running backs that make his life easier as a passer, where the offensive line at Utah erases a lot of problems and makes, in some cases, Devin look better than he has been or healthier than he has been. Avery Johnson doesn't have that right now. We talk so often about how having the right quarterback fixes everything in college football. And in a lot of cases, that feels true and is, well, I don't think just feels true. I think it is true. But I think Kansas State right now is a beautiful / hideous, if you're a Kansas State fan, representation of what happens when you might have the right quarterback. I'm not telling you whether Avery Johnson is the right quarterback or not. I think he's closer to being the right kind of quarterback than to being a guy who's a liability. But if you don't have what you need around that person, it kind of doesn't matter. If your offensive line is not adequate, if your running back room is not giving you consistent production, if your wide receivers, and their wide receiver group is okay this year. It's not much better than the Utah wide receiver room, and I say that while reminding you consistently that Ryan Davis is a top 10 receiver in the league. Kansas State's got Jace Brown, who's averaging 17 yards a catch. He has 5 touchdowns on the year. He's like a top 5 receiver. He's got 700 yards of production. So, I mean, he's a solid guy. Beyond him, you got to search and scroll pretty far down the list before you've got their next guy. And again, that's the situation that we've seen from this Utah offense in a lot of cases, and from this Utah football team. There are more similarities in the way the offense is built than there are differences, but the thing that separates what Utah is right now from a result standpoint, from a numbers standpoint, and what Kansas State is that a Big 12 team like Kansas State that consistently has put NFL guards especially, they haven't had the same kind of success with tackles, but interior offensive linemen, they've had some really good ones. They're not doing it this year. They don't have it this year. And Utah's offensive line is, I mean, I don't know what kind of individual team awards are going to be handed out at the end of season banquet by Coach Witt and his staff. But as far as offensive MVP goes, the Utah offensive line deserves a ton of credit if we're using this 1 week snapshot as a decent comparison tool. I mean, the biggest disparity between these two rosters right now is not, oh, look what they've got at the wide receiving room. No, it's similar. Like, they've got, like Utah does, they've got a couple of guys, and then the rest of it's sort of by committee, and a smattering of catches here and there. Their number 2 guy, Kansas State's number 2 guy, Tibbs, has 37 catches this year. All right, cool. That's good. Utah's number 2 receiver this year. Do you know who James, I'm going to quiz you. Who's Utah's number 2 receiver on the season?
So Ryan Davis is number 1, and we're talking pass catcher.
I should say number 2 pass catcher.
Okay.
Yes.
Dallin Bentley, right?
Yeah, Dallin Bentley. So Kansas State, their top guy, has 41 catches on the year. Utah's top guy actually has 57 catches on the year. Their guy's getting more yards per catch, so he's got about 60 more yards of offense. It's about 50 more yards of offense than Ryan Davis does. And then beyond that, you go down the list, and it's like, oh, well, okay, Dallin Bentley's next at 35 catches. The Kansas State number 2 guy has 37 catches. So, again, their passing game relies on these 2 guys probably more than they need to, probably more than they should in an ideal world, right? And the big difference is Utah has this trump card, if the passing game's not going as well as we want it to, guess what we can do that you can't? We can just say, all right, we're going to put together a 14-play drive. We're going to get 6 yards at a time, 8 yards at a time, 3 yards, 2 yards. Oh, there's a 7-yard chunk run. And they can just grind it out. Kansas State, as a team, from a team identity standpoint, would love to be able to do this, and they can't right now. And Utah can. It is what Kansas State is right now, what Utah fears having to be, what Utah might end up having to be if it weren't for the offensive line. Isn't that a strange thing to be watching tomorrow on Saturday? You're gonna see what this Utah team could look like if they didn't have the luxury of Fano and Kump and Tongiai and Mokafisi and Lomu. And all respect to Kansas State's offensive linemen, but not a single one could start at Utah right now. Not one. To be fair, that's probably true of 90% of all the offensive linemen in the Big 12 Conference this year. I mean, you'd find a way to put Jordan Seaton on the field if you had to. You'd find a way to put Cincinnati center on the field if you had to. If you had to move both those guys to guard or whatever, right? But it's just the sliding doors of college football and the personnel movement that happens and the transfer portal and all the stuff that you have to account for and the talent that Utah has been able to accumulate, recruit, develop, and keep, especially at the offensive line, is right now the difference. And obviously we knew this, and there's 1,000 different ways it can be said, but Kansas State is maybe the best example I've seen this year of an analogy where you get to see, all right, that's what your offense might look like, guys. This is what the Utah offense could look like. Avery Johnson's he's a savvy kid. He's a sharp guy. He's a great athlete. If Devin Dampier didn't have that offensive line, right, this Utah offensive line, if Jason Beck wasn't calling plays with this Utah offensive line, your offense might look like Kansas State. And if your offense looks like Kansas State, then your win-loss record looks like Kansas State. But because it doesn't, because it's 2025, the year of our Lord, 2025, and Utah football has this opportunity, tomorrow should be a dog walk. If this team had the practice week that we were told that they had, if they are as focused as we're told they are focused, this should be another 52-10 type game. Kansas State, the only thing that gives you any kind of pause about Kansas State right now is looking at the full sample size and seeing their losses. They don't get dog walked, except by Texas Tech they did. All of their losses, like their win-loss record. I did this with Utah. If Utah had scored, we decided if Utah had scored, 17 more points last year, they'd have been a 10-win team. Kansas State can kind of say the same thing going through this year. Iowa State, they lost by 3. Army, they lost by 3. Arizona, they lost by 6. Now we're up to 12 points, being a big difference for them. Baylor, they lost by 1. A grand total of 13 points separate them from being a 9-1 team versus being a 5-5 team. And where do those 13 points come from? Where do those 13 points vanish from the scoreboard if you're Kansas State? Well, you don't have the offensive line that Utah does. You don't have the offensive line that Texas Tech does. You don't have the offensive line that BYU does. You don't have the offensive line that even Arizona State or Houston has. That's their issue right now. But this is a Kansas State team that should, even though they fought real hard in most of their losses, and they've been a penalty or a turnover or a missed field goal away from having a much, much different season. Good luck next year, Kansas State. You don't have what it takes to beat this Utah team. At least you haven't shown so far that you have what it takes to beat this Utah team.
The other thing that's similar to Kansas State, and not like you're saying they're similar to last year's Utah team, but in one way that they're similar to this year's Utah team is the game against Texas Tech. They were in that game until like the fourth quarter, just like Utah was. So that's another indication of how they've been more competitive than their record would imply that they have been. But that doesn't really matter. The point that you're making is still absolutely true and accurate. Utah should catwalk them because they're Wildcats, not dogs.
I see what you did. No, look, it's funny because you want to say, right, because this is the year that Utah had last year. That's the year Kansas State is having right now. You want to say, well, Utah even last year was a much better team than what their record indicated, and the close margin in a lot of those games should indicate that. And that's true in some cases, right? But at the end of the day, there's nothing that you can go back and change and erase and make it so that you can prove, oh, well, Utah was a much better team last year than their record indicated. That the injuries last year were what they were, and Utah, because of the team that they got to put on the field last year, was a group of guys that was missing like 5 of its best players seemingly every single week. That's just what you had. And Kansas State, I mean, their injury report is a lot more robust and crowded than Utah's is. So Kansas State is probably saying, well, yeah, guys, same thing. You guys went through this last year. We're going through it this year. The big difference is that, their quarterback, their starting quarterback, who is always going to be their starting quarterback, is obviously still available to them. But it's just not enough. And because it's just not enough, I fully expect for Kansas State to have the exact year that Utah had last year. They might miss a bowl game after being projected to be a conference championship contender. Kansas State has Utah, and then they've got Colorado. Now, Colorado, that's a winnable game, but Utah ain't. Not for this Kansas State team. End of my rant. We'll take a quick one here. We're at Smith's in Woods Cross. Come by. A reminder also, the Aaron Lowe, Keep 'em Smiling, the A. Lowe Foundation, is doing a fundraiser. I've got a QR code. You can come up, say hi, donate to what his mom, Donna Stearns, is doing. But they also have drop-off locations for coats, hats, gloves, anything you need. Drop-off locations are the Texas Roadhouse in Bountiful and in Taylorsville, and Fathom Realty, which is down at 1265 East Union Park Boulevard in Cottonwood Heights. So lots of ways to get involved this holiday season, and obviously Aaron Lowe, part of that 22 Forever legacy at the University of Utah, a good cause. Bill Riley, the voice of the Utes, joins us next. Come say hi in Woods Cross. I've got tailgate passes and gift cards, Smith's gift cards to give away. All you got to do is flash to you and tell me go Utes. Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to the Sean O'Connell Show on a Friday. Welcome in the voice of the Utes, Bill Riley, who one last time this season at Rice-Eccles Stadium will be calling action tomorrow as Utah takes on Kansas State. Bill Riley, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Sean O'Connell, how is it already the last home game?
It feels like this season has flown by. I kind of hate it. I mean, I love the position that we're at with football still being compelling and interesting this deep into the season, but I hate that it's almost over, you know?
I think that's why it feels like it's fun. Remember the last 2 years, especially last year, every week felt like a slog. It was like, oh, can we get to the end? And when you're doing well and playing well, I just think the season flies by, right?
It really does. And I was looking forward to this conversation because, you know, you can't – the context of what happened last year matters, I think, to Utah fans. This one, it's such a relief, the way things are happening this year, the sort of opposite nature of the enthusiasm, the excitement, the seeing your team's logo up there in the college football playoff rankings where we thought they might be last year instead of the misery that you had to suffer through. All of that matters. And the thing that matters most to me about it is the way that this quarterback situation, because Devin Dampier is banged up. He's not 100% healthy. But it's being handled so differently. It feels like it's being handled so differently this year. Now, part of that is because you've got the personnel to make it look a lot different. Bird Ficklin has been awesome when we've seen him in action. And the injury to Devin is obviously not as bad as the injury to Cam was. But it feels like even the way the coaching staff handles it, the way the team has handled it, Kyle Whittingham has been a little bit more transparent about things. It's a lot different than it was last year.
Yeah, I mean, it starts first with the fact that you've got a backup quarterback who fits your style of play perfectly. And, you know, and by the way, he's a true freshman, so let's give this kid a little credit. It's not just plug and play. He's good. I mean, he's a really, really good player. But Jason Beck hasn't had to change anything because he can run the exact same offense that he runs when Devin Dampier's in there. It's not as if one guy is a running mobile quarterback and the other guy is a strictly pocket passer. But it also helps when you have the best offensive line in college football, and it helps when you've got a bell cow back, and I think that's what Wayshawn Parker's become too. You can lean on that. They didn't have that last year. The offensive line was up and down last year. They didn't have that ace running back. I mean, Mekhi Bernard was there, but he was hurt part of the year, and I just think a lot of things are different, but it all starts with having a guy that can step in when your QB1's not 100%, or if he gets dinged on a series or a play, and honestly, you don't miss a beat. In some ways, he's a little bit more explosive. Even when I would say that even when they're healthy, Sean, I think Ficklin's a little bit more explosive than Devin Dampier is. Devin may be a little more crafty. Devin may have a little bit better feel for the pass game. But when it comes just to running the football, I think Ficklin's a more explosive player.
Yeah, I won't argue that. And obviously that difference is highlighted by the fact that Devin is not anywhere near 100% right now with his legs, right? Because when we saw him early in the season where he was closer to full health, maybe that was a closer comparison, and right now it's just not because Devin can't even scramble the way that he wants to, much less in the design runs. And we saw last week was, I think, the best example of how Bird is a home run threat every time he's got the ball in his hands.
Yeah, he is. And even last week you saw it. I mean, there were times where Devin had an opportunity to run, and he chose not to run, which I think early in the season, and, you know, you want a guy to explore all options in the pass game, but, you know, sometimes when that first and second read aren't there, it's okay to tuck it. We saw him do that early in the season and pick up 8, 9, 10, 15 yards. He didn't do that against Baylor at all last week, which tells me he's not 100%. So you've got him, but if something goes sideways or he has to come out, they don't really drop off at all when you put Ficklin in.
So as we get ready for senior day tomorrow, I mean, there's effectively the whole offensive line has an opportunity probably to move on. Guys like Lander Barton, who's been huge in the program, guys like Levani Damuni, who I think have been very important in the program but are not quite as heralded probably. I mean, the list goes on and on. Senior day, and you have to turn the page every year, and you have to say goodbye every year. But it feels like this is a particularly special group because of some of the adversity that they've had to overcome from the last couple of seasons. Some of these guys, obviously, were part of the teams that lost, Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe. It feels like a really impactful group that is maybe taking their last snaps at Rice-Eccles Stadium.
Yeah, this is the last group, Sean, that was part of the championship runs. I mean, 21 and 22 were those Pac-12 championship seasons, and you're losing the guys that were part of all of that. You'll have a couple of guys maybe next year that were part of the second one, but the guys that were part of all those Pac-12 championships and those Rose Bowls, those guys go this year. And that's a very important chapter in Utah football history, and saying goodbye to those guys. That offensive line, there's a chance all 5 of those guys are going to be gone. Caleb Lomu is projected as a first-round guy, but maybe he comes back. He's projected into the first round. Maybe he wants to be Spencer Fano and be a top 10 pick because the money's different. I mean, first-round money's great, but top 10 first-round money is about 3 times what end of the first-round money is. And with the NIL the way it is these days, maybe you stick – I don't know. But the other guys are all gone, and it's going to be a little bit of a rebuild next year. But I think they like what they've got behind those guys.
I think they do, and obviously the transfer portal will come into play for Utah in acquiring talent, not just trying to retain your talent, and that's a conversation for another day. There's also the potential, and he's not going to let us know. Nobody's going. They're not going to tip their hand. I think they're going to probably do all they can to hide it. There's also the potential that this is Kyle Whittingham's last home game. He doesn't want it to be about him, but in a lot of ways it's got to be. So how are you processing that, calling this game and thinking about that?
I'm not really, because I haven't gotten any sense that it is. If I had some sort of an inkling that this might be it, maybe so, but he is so not about him. He's all about the process and coaching and focusing on the games. Plus, these games are important, Sean. I mean, Utah's still got everything to play for. And so they've got to go out and win these games and not get caught up in, Kyle Whittingham. It's about this season still, and there's a lot to play for this season. So to be really fair, I'm not thinking much about it because I don't know that Kyle has leaned one way or another on this. If I had some thought that it might be definitively his last game, maybe you think a little bit more about that. But I don't know that he's even at that place right now to think about it.
Yeah, I think that's, I've been thinking about it a lot. I've been talking about it a lot. I've probably been thinking about it and talking about it more than Kyle Whittingham himself because, like you said, they've got to win these games. And what he cares about is finishing this regular season 10-2 and going out and at least making a case that you belong in the conference championship game or you belong in the college football playoff, even if you don't get to that conference championship game. And with that, Bill Riley, by the way, voice of the Utes, my guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. A conversation that is brought to you every week by our friends at Handy and Handy. That's big firm experience, small firm attention. Kansas State is not having the year that they thought they were going to have. I just made the analogy in my opening segment that Kansas State's year right now is a lot like Utah's year was last year. Big hopes, big expectations, and they've fallen short. And they've fallen short in a lot of really close games this year. Even when they got dog-walked by Texas Tech, it wasn't until late in the game that they start getting dog-walked. So what is this Kansas State team? When you look at it on film, when you look at it on paper, do they have anything for the Utes?
Well, they could, Sean. They started out terribly. They were 1-3. They were their own worst enemy early on, and that was when they were healthy. Now they are not healthy. They're a lot like Utah was last year. Their best running back, out. He's been out most of the year. Their best wide receiver, and he is good. Maybe the second or third best receiver in the league. He's out, Jace Brown. Their best linebacker, an all Big 12 linebacker, Austin Romaine. He's out. And they've got a bunch of other injuries, too. So this is a decimated team. Can they get to bowl eligibility? They absolutely can. A win Saturday would do that. But you know how it is, Sean. When you go into a season expecting to compete for a league title and you're sitting at 5-5 with 2 games left, the bowl eligibility thing, as much as people like to talk it up, that ain't that big a deal. Well, I think they'll fight because I think Chris Kleiman's a good coach and he'll have his team ready. I'm just not sure where they get their offense from because Jace Brown was a big part of their passing attack. Dylan Edwards was a big part of their running attack. Now, they've got a good dual-threat quarterback, Avery Johnson, one of 4 players in K-State history to throw for 5,000, rush for 1,000. He's good. His running back, Joe Jackson, not bad, but they don't have a lot of they're going to have to manufacture it. Johnson's a guy that can go the distance. He's got like 4.4, 4.3 speed at quarterback, so you've got to be aware of that. Doesn't throw it great. They will use their tight ends a little bit like Utah does, but this is not a big play explosive team, kind of like we saw last week with Baylor, where they can hit you with an 80-yard play really quick. If K-State's going to hit you with a big play, it's going to be because a couple of people missed some tackles and Avery Johnson with the distance. Otherwise, they don't. I'm struggling to see where they're going to. They only put up 14 points against a really bad Oklahoma State team last week, and they forced 5 turnovers. So I think that's going to be the big ask for them tomorrow. Defensively, they're physical, they're tough, they're going to be pretty good. But offensively, I think if Utah is dialed in, I think it's going to be hard for K-State to score tomorrow.
I'm with you, and the sort of analogies, the like comparisons between Kansas State's offense and Utah's offense, they only go as far as like the guys out on the edges and even some of the quarterback that you just talked about. Because what Kansas State certainly does not have is the ace in the hole that the Utah offensive line is, right?
Right.
You could say that Kansas State's like, oh yeah, they lost their best wide receiver, but they've got guys that are kind of comparable out there, and I don't think their running back's as good as Wayshawn, but if you don't have an offensive line that when the passing game's not going can say, all right, fine, then we'll just do it our way, you got nothing. And that's, I think, where Utah ends up having a great day tomorrow.
Well, here's the thing, though. The one thing I will say, the great equalizer is always turnovers. K-State's forced 24 turnovers this year, Sean. 24. They've forced 12 fumbles and 12 interceptions. They're very opportunistic. Did it a couple of times against Tech. Did it 5 times last week against Oklahoma State. In a game like that where you're a big favorite, but if you turn it over once or twice, you're going to keep K-State in the ball game. So I think if Utah plays a clean game tomorrow, and they don't give K-State those opportunistic plays, those quick changes, I like Utah's chances.
Do you feel, from a game plan perspective, knowing that this Kansas State rush defense isn't all that spectacular, 10th in the league, and knowing what Utah's done, especially on the ground these last few weeks, and knowing that Dev is a little bit banged up and all that, do you think that the game plan, the offensive game plan, is let's take what they give us and let's push them around, or are we going to see the full playbook? I guess I'm asking, is this going to be a more conservative approach as you try to make sure you get these final 2 wins, or you open it up because you might need the style points for the committee?
Well, I think you try to establish yourself early on. I think if you can bully them early, everything else opens up. If you can hand the ball to Wayshawn Parker and Nakari Rogers, Daniel Bray, mix in a little Bird Ficklin, and really run the ball on a couple of drives early, then all of a sudden you've softened them up. It's funny you mentioned style points because, as much as, Kyle Whittingham says that's not what we're about, I don't think he would willingly, keep his first team in there forever. But you've got a committee. These aren't computers. This isn't the old BCS days. The computers aren't picking it anymore. And these guys watch these games. And this is a middle-of-the-afternoon game on ESPN2 that everybody can see. If Utah can put up a nice number on a Kansas State team that's not terrible, this is not a terrible team. You're not playing Colorado or Oklahoma State here. I do think that's important. I think if you can win, their average margin of victory the last 3 games is 34 points. It's 34 points. If you can win by 3 or 4 touchdowns in a league game late and not have it be, not give up a bunch, let's say you can win it, 42-14, that's an impressive win. So I do think, you're not thinking about it going in, but if you can make it an impressive margin, if you can get a few style points, I don't think that's a bad thing.
I got to ask you this. It's not a Utah question, but the betting favorite to take the LSU job is Kenny Dillingham, and I just don't see him leaving Arizona State. But also, maybe we're seeing the limitations of Arizona State when it comes to finances, and that's something that coaches have to figure out. I just wanted your thoughts on the possibility of Kenny Dillingham taking a job like LSU, even if it's not LSU. There's a lot open this year.
I think it would be a great hire. He's a really good coach. I think if he took it, that would say more about the Arizona State job than it would be about the LSU job, because we know LSU has the resources. I don't think he's going to get some crazy contract like Brian Kelly did. I think the governor of Louisiana made that very clear. But I think he would get a really good contract. But I think what it would say is he would look around because he's an ASU grad. He won a league title last year. If Sam Levitt is healthy in this year, he's probably contending again. But if he took that LSU job, I think he would be saying, I don't think my alma mater has got the resources or is willing to step up and make the commitments they need to keep us competitive. LSU, LSU will. They always have. So I would be surprised if he left. But, Sean, to me, if he left, it wouldn't be because he loves LSU. I think it would be because ASU wasn't going to be able to do what he needed to do in his mind to be not just a Big 12 competitor, but a national competitor.
Can Ole Miss be expected to stay the course if their coach has got family flying around looking at other jobs and the coach himself is the distraction? I ask this because that is one of the teams above Utah and BYU in the rankings that I think there's at least a small amount of vulnerability to an upset in these last couple weeks.
Yeah, but they don't play this week, I don't think. And then they
That's
have
right. They're on a bye.
Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. I mean, it's a distraction. And I don't, for the life of me, I know Lane Kiffin loves attention. We know he's an attention whore. He loves it. He just can't get enough of it. The old Joey Freshwater days. I mean, go back to that stuff. I mean, but he's got a team that is legitimately a national title contender. They're an SEC team with one loss. They're going to be a playoff team. I don't have any problem entertaining these thoughts, but that's what you hire an agent for. That's what you're paying your agent big bucks for. And I know that he wouldn't be able to visit, and they need an answer. But you can do this all behind the scenes, and you don't have to be so very public about it. I just don't understand when Mississippi has given him everything and anything he's ever wanted or needed. And more importantly, these kids are giving him everything he needs this year to possibly win a national. It'd be one thing if Mississippi was 7-4 or 8-3 right now and they were out of it. They're not. They're in the midst of all of it right now. And I just think it's a terrible look. Not that he's entertaining the thoughts. Everybody should have that opportunity to do it. But he's not done anything, I don't know. I mean, flying your ex-wife and your kids to Gainesville and then to Baton Rouge, and what's that about? How does that get out? Why is that news? And if you're a player for Ole Miss right now playing for him, you're just kind of going, Coach, what's up? You're asking us to bust our butts and give you everything we have. Where are you at right now? What are you doing? Why aren't we good enough? We're 11 and we're 10-1 right now. I just think it's a bad look the way it's being handled. I know, and it sucks because the way the schedule sets up too. Florida and LSU want coaches because they got to start recruiting. I get it. I mean, the whole timing of everything stinks. I just think that there's a better way it can be handled, and he just seems to be handling it very publicly, which I just don't think is a good look.
Yeah, I agree, and it's the only reason I asked the question, because on paper there's no reason Mississippi State should be a threat to an Ole Miss team that is this good. But if you've sent a message to your players that, like, you might have one foot out the door, asking them to show up and do everything the right way these next 2 weeks of practice, that's a big ask, in my opinion. We'll see how it plays out, though.
But I guess two players, the players still have a lot to play for, too. They want to win. They want to win a national championship, so they may just say, the heck with him. We're just going to do this for us. But I just think it's a bad look for him, and especially the way his career's gone. He gets fired at USC. He's at Tennessee. He leaves Tennessee. The Raiders situation. It's just this is kind of how it's been. He was on Bama's staff, and Saban lets him go before the national championship because he's entertaining jobs elsewhere at FAU. He's never done a good job handling success, Sean. And that to me is a little bit of an indictment, despite all the success he's had. I'm not sure he's handled it great.
All right, we got to wrap this thing up. So the conversation with Bill Riley is brought to you every single week by Handy and Handy. Big firm experience, small firm attention. Bill, you say it every week. We don't want any one of our listeners to have to call these guys. But if you need any legal advice, or if you, heaven forbid, get into a situation with personal injury or something like that, no better place than Handy and Handy.
No, it could be a car accident. It could be something on the job. It could be anything. And by the way, don't take any chances. If somebody says, oh, we can handle this ourselves, we don't need to bring attorneys into this. Well, you know what? Handy and Handy will give you a free consult. They'll talk to you. They'll tell you about what they can do for you before they take your case. They're going to be very straightforward and upfront with you. So don't take somebody else's word for it. Trust the professionals. You don't want to get left high and dry in a situation where you should have had some representation. So let Preston and Garrett Handy and the law firm of Handy and Handy take good care of you. You can find them online at handylawyutah.com. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Bill. That's Bill Riley, voice of the Utes. He'll be on the call tomorrow. You can listen to him right here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, we got Craig Bolerjack joining us at the top of hour number 2. We've got the Daily Dump. We've got Lee Sterling. We've got Coordinator's Corner. And, of course, on Friday we have grievances to air. The airing of grievances is coming up. Real quick break. We'll come back with a brief hot lunch on the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, real quick, we do a hot lunch. We'll get to Craig Bolerjack here in just a second. He happens to be a Kansas State alum, so split allegiances for Bowler tomorrow? Bum, bum, bum. The hot lunch this week is brought to you by our friends at BGR Burgers Grilled right in the heart of Sugar House at 1202 East Wilmington. They've got the tots, they've got the fries, the sweet potato fries, the combination of those you can order. You can have them split. They've got shakes, seasonal flavors too on the shakes. Huh? We had the pumpkin spice one. It is absolutely fantastic. Burgers are done to perfection every single time. It is maybe the best name for a restaurant that I've ever seen. Burgers Grilled Right is exactly what they give you every time you go there. The chicken sandwiches are fantastic. James stole our Greek harissa lamb burger bowl yesterday, which is effectively a healthier option
so
than
good.
salad. And what's on the docket today, James?
Oh, that harissa lamb was amazing. Just rubbing it a little bit more, OC.
Okay.
It's sliders today.
Uh-huh.
Mini versions of their signature burger, American cheese, topped onions, pickles, and mojo sauce. Again, a hit. They have not brought in something that's not good, OC. So, and this is what, their fourth week that we've done this, that they've done this with us. So head on over there and just pick something on the menu. You will be satisfied with it, whether it's a burger or a slider, or like you said, the bowls, which yesterday was the lamb burger in a bowl, but you can get any one of their burgers in a bowl. The other slider, so it's one of them's the mini versions of their signature burger. The other one is bacon onion marmalade slider, which is also just fantastic.
Here's the thing you can do, all right? If you go to BGR, you can get whatever burger on the menu you think looks best. Be like, hey, can you make that into a slider for me? And they're going to say yes. If you're like, I want that bacon onion marmalade. I want Swiss cheese instead of cheddar. They will customize your burgers. They'll customize your sliders because they want you to leave happy. And trust me, you're going to. Especially if you walk in, you tell them, hey, I heard about BGR on the Sean O'Connell show. They're going to give you a discount on your order. And then everyone's even happier. All right? My mouth is watering just thinking about what James has stolen from us today. But we're here at Smith's. We've had a lot of fan interaction. We've had people coming by, picking up the tailgate passes, the Smith's gift cards, getting ready for the final home game of the year. Craig Bowlerjack is going to join us next, as I said. Before we get there, though, I mentioned this the other day that the WNBA, right, they're women's basketball having its moment at the college level, the pro level, the Caitlin Clark stuff, Asia Wilson and the shoes that are the hottest sellers in the business right now. There's a lot of really cool things happening, but now we're getting to a point where the least cool thing in all of sports is happening, and that is a collective bargaining situation. And we might be looking at a lockout coming from the WNBA because the players' union, despite the massive increase proposed by the league that would put minimum salaries from $66,000 a year up to $220,000 a year, and the Supermax contract would increase from $249,000 a year to over $1.1 million. The players in the players' union said no. Not doing it. Won't take it. Won't accept it. Ouch. So hopefully they'll get this thing worked out. Players have said, despite those massive increases, that what they want is they want a revenue model that reflects unlimited growth potential on their salary caps. Now, the current CBA and the WNBA calls for a 3% increase year over year. The new proposal that, of course, has not been enacted yet because it's been rejected would build in salary cap increases every single year and revenue sharing provisions that would hopefully reward the players if the game continues to grow. But the players said, nope, we want uncapped potential that goes along with the earning potential of the league. So, look, it's a riskier proposition, potentially, to say that, hey, we want our salaries to be tied to league revenue, to be tied to profit. Well, not to profit, to league revenue, because profit has not been a reality in the WNBA as of yet. The reason I say it's risky is because you're saying, all right, I want unlimited growth potential here, and I want it to be related to revenue. Well, we saw what happens to league revenue when your best players, when your big players are out, are injured. In a case like that, you're gambling that everyone stays healthy and that the league continues on its upward trajectory based on people being healthy. It's a risky proposition, but it's one that this players union seems to be willing to take on right now. We'll keep you updated on that. And that's about all the time we'll spend on it today. Craig Bowler-Jack joins us next on the Sean O'Connell Show. We'll talk a little Utah, Kansas State. More importantly, we'll talk about this Utah Jazz team. It's ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792.1 FM. We're at the Smiths in Woods Cross. We've had a ton of people come by picking up tailgate passes and our Smiths gift cards. In fact, if you want one, all you got to do is you got to swing by, you got to throw up the U, but you better hurry because we're down to the very, very last. We've got one more tailgate pass and looks like 3 more gift cards, all right? We're getting down to it, people. I love that. Thanks to everyone who's stopped by. It's great to see everyone and know that there's at least a couple people out there listening to me when I'm just spewing stuff into a microphone. I know there's a lot of people listening now because we actually want to hear what this next guest has to say. His name is Craig Bolerjack. He, of course, is a legend here. And even in Kansas, where he's a Kansas State grad, split allegiances this week, Bowler, as your Wildcats come in to take on the Utes. How do you handle it?
Oh, I tell you, see, this is tough. This is tough. I got so much respect for Witt and the Utes, and of course, what's happening at K-State. Disappointing year. James and I were just talking about it. Feels a little bit like Utah last year, getting thumped and then trying to find their way back. And you know, Avery Johnson, a talented young kid. Their defense has been suspect at times. Run game's been up and down. Utah, man, they're playing with so much energy, speed. I just like the way Utah is playing. They've had a couple of, down moments, but I've been impressed with the way they've been able to kind of right themselves. And it's going to be a crazy game. I got to wear some purple, though, tomorrow. That's just the way it is. Just got to.
Hey, you got to respect the roots, Bowler. We're not gonna give you too much crap for that. I want to talk Utah Jazz with you, but because you're a sports guy more than you're anything else, I have to ask you this. We've seen the College Football Playoff Committee with their rankings. They've shown a lot of respect to the Big 12 Conference. They like BYU. They like Utah. They also, with this Notre Dame-Miami thing, they sent a bit of a message where they were like, yeah, head-to-head matters, and we care what your record says, but we also are paying attention to who you are right now and what is happening right now. And in the case of the Notre Dame and Miami comparison, Notre Dame's been on a hot streak. They lost their first two. They've won every game since. Miami stubbed their toe 3 weeks ago against SMU, who's not all that great. So when you look at the quality loss versus the quality wins, when you look at the recency bias and the eyeball test and all the metrics, and then you compare that to just pure resume, that's what this committee's got to do. They got to weigh one heavier than another when we get to some of these tiebreakers. You, as a man who is dyed-in-the-wool, lifelong sports guy, which should matter more? It might come down to that for BYU and Utah. I'm hoping some scenario emerges where it doesn't come down to that conversation. But there is a possibility. What should matter more, the resume, the wins and losses, or who you are now once we get to the end of this season?
I think every year ought to be judged on who you are right now, personally. Look, I mean, BYU won a national championship how many years ago? 1984. I mean, that's still on everybody's mind, like, can they ever come back and repeat that? In the system today, Sean, tough to ever, replicate what happened when Robbie Bosco and the Cougars won a national championship. But, I think the history of a school, of a program, yeah, I get it, but I still think every year is different. Every year you have ups, every year you have downs. Somebody comes through. Ole Miss, by the way, Lane Kiffin's in the conversation a lot right now. Is he going to bolt on a team that could be part of a really magical season and take off for Florida or LSU? I don't know, but I think you ought to be judged upon who you are now. And as each week progresses, you still have to be judged, right? You could get toppled, you could have a huge upset and move up the ladder. So, yeah, I hope the committee continues to just kind of look. Hey, I know there's a lot of SEC. I did 13 years of SEC football, and I tell you, there's some great football, as you know, in the Southeastern Conference. But Big 12 football has proven that each team can kind of beat each other up. And I hope the committee understands there's a lot of good football players, good football programs in the Big 12. And, they weigh that. So there's always going to be controversy because that's what drives the ship, right? Someone's going to be left out. And it's going to be interesting that floating right now is BYU and Utah just, kind of just sitting right there, kind of waiting for their opportunity to jump in. Will they be allowed to jump in? I know that's what the conversation's about for a lot of fans around this part of the country. And it's going to be interesting to see how tomorrow works out for Utah. Does K-State have an upset in their sleeve? Does that help build them into a playoff or a bowl? They have to win 6 to get into a bowl game. So, there's a lot at stake over the next 3 weeks, and I'm anxious to see how it turns out.
All right, let's talk about this Utah Jazz team. Now, I spent a lot of the offseason being pretty pessimistic, Bowler, and being like, oh, my gosh, we know what this looks like again. You got to do the tank. And this time they're clearing some veterans off the roster to make it a slightly more honest tank. And then this group comes out, and yes, they're young, and yes, they lack some of the megastar potential that you're going to see with the opponent tonight, the defending champs, and you see from the Lakers and teams like that. But gosh, do these guys play hard? And seems like Will Hardy's doing an excellent job with not only the day-to-day stuff, but making sure that these guys are focused on the task at hand and on developing to what this team could be 3-4 years from now. I wanted to, in a weird way, I wanted to be able to kind of tune out and just say, all right, we'll focus on the Jazz when the Jazz are good again. But this group is too fun to do that.
They entertain us. There's no doubt. I mean, for Thurl and I, it's been better than expected, and I think Markkanen is the centerpiece of that conversation. After he played this past summer in the Euro tournament, he came back, and you know what? 4 years ago, he became an All-Star when he played in the Euro tournament as well, and was the most improved player in the NBA. He's had 8 games of 30 or more. I'd say he's physical. He makes it fun. He's finishing better than he ever has in his career. Last year, 47 games played. Sean didn't really get into any rhythm because he knew what the Jazz were doing, and they had talked to him about, the plan. I think the other part of it is Keontae's growth, and I think he just has gotten rid of some anger. He's grown up. I think he's really helped himself understand who he is, and that's tough to do for these 19, 18, 19, 20-year-olds. It takes time to understand, hey, I'm in the NBA, a man's league, and I have to act like a man and be like a man to actually, find some positives and be successful. And I think it takes time, and it's taking more time, Sean, for general managers and teams, I think, to come around with youth because you still haven't grown into your body mentally. Man, I remember when I was 19 and 20, I'm still out there searching, and most of us were. And I think that's what the GMs are trying to figure out, too, is how much time will it take for this group to grow. OKC did it, and they're an NBA champion. They have the best record in the NBA right now, 15-1, trying to repeat. Difficult to do. Ask the Jazz when they got the 2 world championships in 97 and 98. Just getting there is a tough part. Winning is another whole nother level. But I see some positives, and I think the fans do, too. And you know what? Delta Center has been rocking pretty good. The double overtime win was as good as it gets. I mean, that's a playoff game in my book, not only because it was a double overtime game, but it had a little bit of taste of the old days with Chicago and the Utah Jazz. So it was fun. And you know what? For the first half in L.A., pretty good basketball. But that's the next step, is how do you learn to win? And that's where Will Hardy comes into play on coaching these young guys, is that you cannot lose, or blow out a wheel and say, okay, what are we going to do now, and watch the game fade away. You can give the ball up 3 or 4 times, but you have to find a way to patch it and get back and have a run of your own. And I think, again, with Luka Doncic getting to the free throw line and what LeBron's energy was and the hype in that building the other night, it was pretty crazy. But I was still happy to see the Jazz play hard, and that's what they've done all year long.
How important do you think Kevin Love is on this team? I know he's not the player that he once was. There was a time in this offseason I thought he was going to be kind of a buyout. I didn't know we'd ever even see him dribble a ball or take a shot for this Jazz team. But he's one of those absolute pros, a savvy veteran. He's old enough to be at least maybe not dad but uncle for most of these guys. And it seems like he's having fun. So how important do you think his role is in the locker room and on the floor?
I think it became even bigger, Sean, when Kessler went down with the shoulder injury. His minutes were extended. Nurk comes in and starts, and now K-Love has to come in and play more minutes than maybe he even expected. So I've watched him be totally engaged. I mean, with the media, with us, in the locker room, on the road. He's, mentoring Ace Bailey, and, both are receptive of that. I mean, he's 18 years in the league. Man, it's amazing, the longevity of some of these players now. Mike Conley comes to mind, LeBron, of course. But I think from what I see, OC, he has still an incredibly deep passion for what he's doing, works his tail off. He's not here just to take a paycheck. I mean, he wants to be a part of something. And, yes, he could have taken a buyout, or the Jazz were unable to move that at the time. But I think he's been a real plus. Will Hardy, I know, appreciates him in the locker room. He's a voice. He's got a real wicked sense of humor, keeps the guys loose but honest. And if you can get a couple of vets like that, I think any young team needs it. They got to know how to win, what's it like to be a pro, and ask some questions. And I think Love has been perfect, along with Niang, by the way, who hasn't played yet, but his voice is much heard in the locker room and on the bench.
I'm glad you pointed that out because I thought the other night when Ace Bailey had the foul out there on the three-point attempt with kind of his arms windmilling, and the referee went to look at it and see they assessed whether it was going to be a flagrant or not. I thought it was really interesting the way that a 19-year-old Ace Bailey he's out there figuring it all out, and he goes to the bench. And there's like 5 guys, and Niang was, I think, the one who ended up talking to him the longest, who clearly were out there helping this coaching staff guide the rookie in the right direction. And when you're not able to contribute on the floor, pretty cool to see George Niang, who's got the ear of a young player like that, and can tell him, hey, next time let's do it this way.
Right. And, Sean, I tell you, the biggest part of that is that he has the trust. I'm speaking of Niang, the minivan. He has the trust of the coaching staff and Will Hardy. I mean, Kyle Anderson and Will go back to the San Antonio days. And Kevin Love is an NBA champion and a 5-time All-Star and an 18-year vet. So they know and trust that these guys are here for a reason. And one reason why Austin Ainge, was able to get these guys to come in here. Look, everybody wants to play, but they also understand that on the career does wind down, and they can still be useful in some spot minutes, but also if they have the mentality for it, and maybe some of them have coaching abilities down the road or desires. But I tell you, it's amazing to watch them reach out, no hesitation, especially with Ace, especially with Keontae and Taylor Hendricks, is just to try to give them some advice on what to do, what spots to be on the floor. And I tell you, it's such a game of inches where how the bodies turn for a screen. I mean, all those things, and all these guys know all the tricks, by the way. And so they're trying to pass off some of those tricks and angles on making them a better player. And hopefully down the road one day you'll hear Ace say, "Man, I wouldn't be the player I was today without George Niang or Kevin Love." And that's probably the biggest compliment those guys can have.
All right, so you got the defending league champs at the Delta Center tonight. You got the Lakers on the weekend as well. A lot of star power on both of those teams. How do you expect this young group to handle the Thunder first, and then we'll get to the Lakers again here in a sec?
I just hope, again, like you said, be competitive. Go out. And, if you pull off a win, you can high-five each other and, man, enjoy it for a minute and then get back to work. But they're tough. These are tough games ahead. It was tough in L.A., an incredible first half, and then got outscored. Just a runaway with Luka scoring 37. But they were outscored 73-54 in the second half. And there's another lesson to learn. You know what? It's the old cliche of one half doesn't give you a W. You got to play 4 quarters of basketball. It's overused, but it's very true, by the way. And you have to, shut off small moments where you turn the ball over or don't play defense. But tonight's huge. These guys won another title. They want another title. They're on track to be the favorite to do so. It's difficult to go back twice and win a championship, but Sean, they're 15-1. You got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You got and Chet Holmgren and others. And they, is it a superstar team? Yeah, there's one or two, but they still do this more as a team concept. And I think this is basically the blueprint of what the Jazz are trying to follow. A lot of teams follow the Jazz in the old days with Stockton and Malone and building through the draft, but I think this is what the Jazz want to be in a 3 or 4 year period of growth, and then add a piece or two that complements what SGA has done for OKC, and then we can see if the experiment works. But you have to wait a little longer than maybe usual because, again, you're drafting 18 and 19-year-olds, and you don't know really what you have until about year 3. And now you're starting to see what Keontae George can be. And hopefully a few other players can come along a little quicker, like Ace, and then you complement them with a veteran or two, and then all of a sudden you got yourself a very competitive team.
How likely is it that folks with tickets this weekend get to see LeBron on the Delta Center floor in your mind?
You know, I'd say how many times has he come here and not played or not even shown up?
Too
if I
dang
had
many.
to be a betting man, yeah, too many times. You know, he's coming back from the back injury. He played limited minutes in the first half and really came on in his season debut and had a double-double. He's more of a facilitator, OC, now than he was. I mean, and I get it. I mean, he's going to be 41 at the end of December in his 23rd year, and his body, you know, he's played the most minutes of anyone, over 59,000. I mean, think about that. That's just unbelievable. That's just regular season games, not practice, not playoffs. And so, yeah, there's a lot of mileage on that body. So I think they're going to be uber careful with him. They may pick and choose what games he plays. Would it surprise me if he doesn't hit the floor? Not at all. Not at all. But again, he may want the work. He may want, you know, get his legs and his conditioning back up. But in the past, we've always kind of planned that he would not play. And I think Jazz fans know what we're talking about. It's just one of those stops on the NBA tour that he decides he doesn't want to be a part of.
Well, at least you'll get Reeves and Luka and some of the other guys on that team that are interesting to watch. Yeah. By the way, regarding LeBron, we asked a trivia question yesterday. 23 seasons in, roughly 25% of the players in the NBA were born after LeBron started playing NBA basketball.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, think about that. I mean, that includes an Ace Bailey, right? That includes the Jazz's Ace Bailey.
That's
I mean,
Wembanyama, yeah.
It's crazy to think that his career started, and you said 25% of the league, they were not even born when he made his pro debut. That is crazy to think about. But the longevity of LeBron, you can't take that away from him. Love him or what, but or dislike him, but man, you know, he's kept his body in shape. How he's done that is beyond me, but you know, it's DNA. It's who you are and how well. You know, and he does take care of himself. I mean, I'm sure he's got the money he makes. I know there's all sorts of things about the people, you know, and the food and how he works out and the people that take care of that. And you know, if you're at that level, OC, spend the money, right, and continue on. And if you love the game, play, and that's what he does. He loves the game still. And still very competitive. And he's got a guy named Doncic, which makes maybe life a little easier now, too.
Well, Bowler, we'll see you out there tonight. Have a great call, as always, and appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
All right, pal. Good talking to you. See you soon.
That's Craig Bowler, Jack, voice of the Utah Jazz. They've got OKC tonight, and on Sunday it'll be the Lakers. LeBronless or not, it's still the Lakers. So get out there and, as a Jazz fan, fill the seats, because one of the most obnoxious things that you could ever find at the Delta Center is a Jazz-Lakers game where there's about, 6,000 yellow and purple jerseys. Ugh, it's gross. Daily Dump coming next. We'll do a PGA Tour leaderboard update along the way. Lee Sterling still set to come, the number one handicapper in the business, helping us pick the games this weekend. And at 1 o'clock, it'll be Coordinator's Corner with the DC Morgan Scalley. Then we will air our grievances. That happens on Fridays at 1:30. So an hour from now, we'll have your grievances. Make sure you text them in at 877-353-0700. You can tweet at me at RealOC Sports. You can call. Just get it off your chest. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, halfway through on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Time for the Daily Dump on the Sean O'Connell Show. We're coming at you from the Smiths and Woods Cross, just east of the freeway. Come hang out with us. We have a couple more gift cards to give away. You just got to flash the U. Our tailgate passes are gone. Big thanks to everyone who came out already. Apologies to anyone who is planning on stopping by later, but first come, first serve, and that's just the way it goes. Before we get to anything else here in the Daily Dump, make sure for all your plumbing and drain cleaning needs, you look for the truck with the duck. Let's do a PGA Tour leaderboard update here, James, because as you are well aware, we've got Lee Sterling handicapping games for us in our next segment. The RSM Challenge still going on. Leaderboard update brought to you by Uinta Golf. They've got the new G440 driver delivering faster ball speeds and pings game-changing forgiveness. Also, the G440 irons are designed for more distance and control, all available at Uinta Golf. What's the leaderboard look like, James?
RSM Classic, as you said, that is at the Sea Island Seaside course there for the RSM Classic. I'm check here where. Oh, in Georgia. There you go. Sounds like a picturesque course. Anyway, Andrew Novak is your leader, the solo leader at 16 under. Couple guys tied for second, including Michael Thorbjornsen and Grayson Sigg at 14 under. The next group there, tied for fifth, is Patrick Rogers and Andrew Putnam. A group of guys tied for fifth at 13 under. Let's see. Tied for eighth, Hayden Buckley, and a handful of other guys there at 12 under, so 4 shots off the lead there. That rounds out your top 10. And how about our local guy, OC, Ogden's own, I think a BYU grad, but we'll forgive him for that. Zach Blair. He's only 6 shots off the lead, tied for 23rd, 10 under.
All right.
So shout out to Zach Blair.
Let's go, Zach Blair.
Let's go.
Rocking up that leaderboard at the RSM Challenge. Come on, we're rooting for you. That brought to you by our friends at Uinta Golf. G440 drivers and irons are available right now. And you know I won't play anything else. If it's not Ping and G440, it ain't in my bag, okay?
If it's not Ping, it don't sing, right?
Is that what?
Yeah, that's
that should be. That should be their slogan. If it's not. All right, here's something interesting in the Big 12 Conference as we get to the time of year where the coaching carousel and its inevitable spin becomes front-of-mind news. Baylor made an announcement that they are retaining Dave Aranda. Now, he's still got games to coach here, but Baylor has decided, according to their university president, Linda Livingstone, in an announcement that came out earlier today. Well, here's the quote. After careful evaluation and consideration, we have decided to retain Coach Dave Aranda as the leader of our football program. We recognize this decision will generate strong opinions. Let me be clear, Baylor expects excellence, accountability, and competitiveness at the highest level. We are not complacent. We are not settling for mediocrity. Why is the university president making this announcement, you ask? Well, because Mack Rhodes, who is out of his duties as the College Football Playoff Committee chair and out of his duties on that committee in general, is now out as the athletic director at Baylor University. He was on leave, was on voluntary leave is what we were told, and now he has decided that that leave is permanent. He has resigned from his position, so they will be hiring a new athletic director. And when you talk about hot seats for Dave Aranda, it's great to hear from your university president, hey, we're retaining you. But this means that Dave Aranda starts 2026 with the absolute hottest seat probably in all of college football. Because not only will he be coming off another substandard season, but he will be doing so under a new athletic director who was not the person who hired him. We like Dave Aranda. I think there's a certain amount of affection for him based on his time on staffs we're familiar with, and obviously at Utah State. But Dave Aranda, 2-7, then 12-2, and a Big 12 championship, then 3-9, and then a bad year last year, and so far things are looking a little bit grim as Baylor is 5-5 on the year. They're 3-4 in conference play. They've got Arizona. That's a really tough defensive team right now, playing good football, and then they've got Houston. So it doesn't. They're not going to be favored, I will say, in any of these two games. So you might be missing a bowl game again. So Dave Aranda being retained despite a bad year because there's enough instability, and I think this is actually a really savvy move by the university, recognizing the landscape and saying, look, there are too many jobs open, there are too many good jobs open, and we've got a mess of an athletic department right now where we've got to find the ultimate leadership, we've got to find the athletic director. Let's keep Dave Aranda on, and maybe next year's cycle will be a little bit calmer, and we'll see how it plays out. You don't want to throw your name in the hat right now as a school that needs a new head coach when Penn State and UCLA and all these other big high-profile programs are already looking. LSU, Florida, of course. So interesting stuff from Waco, Texas. Baylor retains Dave Aranda with games to play.
Yeah, do you feel, I mean, of course you're happy to keep your job, especially when the outside world is speculating that you're not going to. But I wonder if part of Dave is like, man, this is going to be it's probably going to be rough to be coaching on an even hotter seat next season. But that's next season's problem, though, right?
Yeah. You know what's going to make him feel better about it? His $4.9 million salary that he now gets to collect next year.
Touche.
Like, I mean, and look, he was going to get a buyout and all that stuff anyway, but that does help things where, yeah, it sucks to be on a hot seat, but this is, I mean, it's a stay of execution for Dave Aranda, and I just told you, right, his first year at Baylor, 2-7, and then his second year, he won the conference championship. Next year could be a whole different thing. Now, pulling that off in the current landscape of college football is a lot harder than just saying it, of course. A lot of his really good players are going to leave because they know the situation and they didn't have a satisfying year this year. But he's been calling the defense. Defensively, they've been really bad. It's pretty clear that he can't do both, be the head coach and be the defensive coordinator. So maybe he helps himself out by hiring somebody to call the defense, or more likely by just handing the defensive play calling duties to like his secondary coach or somebody like that. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Baylor. Also in the college football world, another piece of news here in the Daily Dump. Breaking. Brian Kelly has been fired at LSU. Did you see this? They've officially, LSU, this university is run by unserious people.
Seriously.
Okay? LSU, after firing Brian Kelly a couple weeks ago, and after conducting a new head coaching search for a couple of weeks now, they are today officially separating themselves from Brian Kelly because of the lawsuit where they don't want to pay the buyout. We talked about this on the show previously, where they fired him, and then they said, well, actually, we didn't fire you. And we're now going to fire you for cause. And, of course, his legal team was just like, shut up, guys. You fired me, and you didn't fire me for cause, so you owe me my buyout. And they're like, no. The university president had them issue notice today to Brian Kelly that he's been fired at LSU.
What do you think do you think he and his legal team are like, fantastic, like whatever? Obviously they're not whatever because they're trying to fight the chance to still get the buyout that it's not for cause. But like they have to be rolling their eyes or just laughing as hard as they can at this.
Can you imagine if you're Brian Kelly, you get a formal notice of termination on Friday, November 21st, when you were actually fired on November 7th. Or
was it?
Sorry,
it was
November
end of
10th.
October, right? Wasn't anyway.
Oh wait, when was it?
I think it was October 26th, right?
Excuse me. You're right. This was a month ago.
Yeah.
And now you're getting the letter. Like, it's probably not a letter. It's probably an email, or maybe it is a letter on the like official. You frame that thing.
LSU letterhead. Yeah.
And by the way, if you're anyone on his legal team, you're going, Can I just ask you something, LSU? They're like, yeah, sure. How long have you been searching for a new head coach? Like, who is. They've been contacting people. They've been talking to people. They've been talking to agents. There are probably now 100 people involved in the replacement process for Brian Kelly. Oh, but you just fired him today? Can you make those two things make sense? This is, again, the easiest, most slam dunk lawsuit that I've ever seen in my life.
Man.
But I just wanted to update you and let you know that LSU officially today issued like actual LSU letterhead notice to Brian Kelly and his legal team that he has been terminated. Presumably for cause. And they're going to have to prove what that cause was.
Yeah,
Just
you know
chef's
what?
kiss. It's just perfect.
It's amazing. You know what they said? They said, "Oh, you're suing us? Well, you're fired for that. How
Now
dare
you're
you?
fired for suing us for
How
cause.
dare you?" Like, I was
all right.
already fired.
I don't want to talk. It's the only time today we're going to be able to fit this in, and I'm going to take like 90 seconds to do it. But guys, the Utah Mammoth have gone ice age cold. They are 2-6-1 in the last 10 games. After starting the season, the first month, you looked like the best squad in the NHL. They have gone cold. The milk's gone bad. Does not seem to be in rhythm. The defense that was allowing fewer shots than anyone else in the NHL, even through this losing streak, had kind of maintained some of that. Well, I guess we're blaming Vejmelka then? I mean, there was a missed call on goalie interference last night where he got – literally there was a sweep-the-leg motion that took Vejmelka out of goal. Like, opposing defenseman's skate goes behind his skate in the crease, and he sweeps the leg forward and dumps Vejmelka onto his back, and no goalie interference called on that one. But it's not like this was a one-goal margin here. The Utah Mammoth lost 4-1. I don't have answers. I don't have solutions for you. I'm just sitting here complaining about the fact that all of my excitement has been stamped out, and they poisoned my punch bowl here. I'm really bummed at the way this last 10-game streak has gone for the Utah Mammoth. And obviously, streaks happen in these long seasons, and you hope that they can get back on track. And obviously, with what we saw from them early in the year, they showed that they're capable of being a really good team. But right now, they are not playing good hockey, and I'm airing a preemptive grievance with that. Sucks.
It's a bummer. It's a bummer. The one thing we trust our guy Adrian Denny between the pipes every Wednesday here, and he still stays pretty optimistic, OC, and that gives me some pause as to, like, as we're kind of learning the league still and learning the game of hockey and how devastating the ups and downs may or may not be, especially early on. He's kind of the North Star there. He comes in and he's like, you know what, long season, still learning how to win, consistently. They've had a really tough schedule to start this season. It loosens up here in a little bit, especially with a lot more home games. It makes me go, you know what? They can still figure this out, but it is tough to see what you said. What, 2-6-1, or is that what you said?
2-6-1 in the last 10, yeah.
Last 10, you look at that and go, man, is this team as good as we thought they would be? Right now, they don't look that way.
Plenty of hockey left to play. That's what I'm saying to make myself feel better right now. Got to take a quick one here. We come back with Lee Sterling, the number one handicapper in the business from Paramount Sports, helping us decide how we're playing the wagers on this upcoming weekend. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on a Friday at Smith's in Woods Cross, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Welcome back to a Friday edition of the Sean O'Connell Show. We're coming at you from Smith's Food and Grocery up in Woods Cross. We've got a couple more gift cards to give away. Just swing by, flash the U, tell us go Utes. We'll give you a gift card, send you in to get stocked up for your viewing party, your tailgate, whatever your plans are for the weekend. Obviously, Thanksgiving is next week. They've got the Thanksgiving turkeys and all the fixins. The best handicapper in the business, Lee Sterling, Paramount Sports, joins us every Friday to give us a little advice for entertainment purposes on the picks this week. Lee, how are you? Welcome, sir.
Good. I'm good. Looking forward to settling in. Have my youngest coming in from New York on Monday, so have fun with her in for the week. And I don't know if we talked about this, Sean. So we have the Bake Off. Did you hear about my turkey Bake Off? Remember that from last year?
No, what's the bake-off?
Okay, so it's my two daughters. My oldest is 28. Now, it's been going on 17 years. So my oldest makes a banana cream pie, and the youngest, she makes a huckleberry pie. And in front of, we have 32 people coming. I have to decide who wins. So.
Oh, it's all on you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I don't mind. I'm eating pie. Who doesn't like pie? So we also, it's gotten so big, so it's on Twitter and TikTok at Paramount Sports. We tape it and we put it out there within 10 minutes from the time that it goes live. And we have about 20, 25 people from the neighborhood that walk over and want to see, who wins each year. But there's a new entrant. I got a text last Friday. My son-in-law, he notified me that him and my youngest daughter's boyfriend, who they live together, they're going to be entering a mystery pie. So I don't know what the pie is. They just told me they're going to bring it, and I said, listen, there's just one rule. You can bring any type of pie. If you win, you're the best. I'll judge you the winner, but pie goes to my daughters. So you got to bring it.
Fair enough. You know what? I want like a plus number on that mystery pie, and then I'll take it. All right.
Okay.
That's my wager.
All right.
Let's get into the picks for this week. A lot of intrigue as we head down to the final stretch of the season here. And, of course, both BYU and Utah are right outside looking in at the college football playoff right now. So not only are their games important, but some of the games in front of them important. Like this Oregon-USC game, the Ducks are 9.5-point favorites against a really decent Trojans team who may or may not see their head coach getting NFL offers and things like that. I mean, a lot of storylines all over the place. So how does the game play out?
Well, we know in past years, USC's defense was Charmin soft. I mean, their front seven was terrible. But some things have changed this year against teams tough in the trenches, and I'm talking about teams like Notre Dame, Michigan, Iowa, Nebraska, and Northwestern. They've held up well. In fact, they've won 4 of the 5 games against those teams. The only game they lost was on the road to Notre Dame, and they were in the game for 3 quarters. And the difference right now, I think, between Oregon this year and past years, they don't have receivers that can take the top off. I mean, they used to have guys that would just run by you and play action. They'd hit on a 50, 60-yard pass play a couple times a game, and you're behind 14-21 at home, and when Eugene is up big on you, you're done. So they don't have those guys. They've lost 3 of the top 4 guys since the start of training camp, and I think USC can hang with them as far as athletes here. I think this is too much, almost 10 points. I think Oregon escapes 28-25, but give me USC plus the points.
All right, Oregon to win, but USC to cover. That probably doesn't help Utah or BYU with the upcoming rankings for anyone keeping score there. UNLV, 3-point favorites against a Hawaii team that I think has surprised a lot of people this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually they're like 1-5. They come to the mainland, and it's late in the year. They rarely win games. They're 2-2 on the road this year, which isn't too bad. UNLV needed a Utah State missed field goal to get both 2 overtime and to win it in overtime here. Hawaii has played some good football this year, so I don't think they're relying on luck. And if it comes down to one player, special teams. I think Hawaii has the guy here, Japanese kicker, Kanzai Matsuama. This kid
The
watched
Tokyo
YouTube.
Tole.
Yeah, do you watch YouTube videos to learn how to kick 22 for 22 on the year? Why not? Hawaii straight up here, 34-31 in a thriller. Last play of the game.
Love it. The Tokyo Toe is one of my favorite stories in college football. He had his first career tackle last week also on a kick return. So you'll love to see it. Amazing. All right. BYU, Cincinnati. Look, big stage again for the Cougs, the big noon kickoff game, all that stuff. They are favorites in this one. And, look, they had a great bounce back after losing to Texas Tech. Great bounce back performance against TCU. This time they're on the road against a ranked team. Can they do it?
Yeah, and surprisingly, Cincinnati quarterback Brendan Sorsby, who's been great up until the last couple of weeks, just fallen off 3 picks in the last 2 games has cost them. Their defense has not been good. It's not like they're great anyway, but Noah Fafita, he ended up throwing for 294 against them. Bearcats D torched in back-to-back weeks here. Their offense, I still think, can be elite here. They got 3 transfer receivers, and if I was them, I'd go hurry up here. You got to get more possessions. You got to catch BYU. Maybe having trouble getting the signals in on defense here. BYU's on the edge, playoff rankings here, and can't afford another loss. I think Cincinnati's going to pin one on them. Another thriller, 36-34. Bearcats, I think they finally play well again.
Music to the Utah fan ears because, of course, that could open up a path into the conference championship game for the Utes. We will see how it plays out. Before we get to the game, our game of the week, you've got a couple NFL games. You've been really hot in the NFL. Bears, Steelers. The Bears are 2.5-point favorites against a Steelers team that has found some struggles as of late.
They have, and what's crazy about Aaron Rodgers, we're always talking about the value of quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, 4 or 5 years ago, he doesn't play for like the Packers. The line changes 7 points. Now, the line hasn't moved, and I don't think he's going to start here. I think Mason Rudolph is going to be the guy. Maybe it ticks up a half a point from +2.5 to +3. You know what? I'd actually take Duck Hodges here under center here for Pittsburgh. Why? I think Chicago is fraudulent. They just finding ways to win close games here, and they did it last week. A new chapter. They return a kickoff over 50 yards. The waning seconds. Cairo Santos hits a field goal, but there's a lot of times their special teams let them down here. Also, their cornerbacks, they try so hard to make plays on the ball. A lot of interference, a lot of defensive holding calls. I just think Pittsburgh, they're one of these teams that zigzag. Terrible 1 week, great the next year. I think the wrong team's favorite here. I like Pittsburgh. They pull off the upset here in Soldier Field, 26-20.
All right, the game of the week is Fresno State against Utah State, who heartbreaker last week. The kicker failed them time and time again in that game. Bulldogs, Aggies, that's your game of the week.
Yep, they want to get it for free. As soon as the segment's over, give us a call. First 5 people will get it for free. It's crazy. 5-way tie for second place in the Mountain West Conference. So this is one of those games that will have a bearing on who goes to the conference championship. Fresno State, Utah State. First 5 callers call 800-400-9741. Rolling in the NFL. How about this? 33-11-1 the last 9 weeks. Get to this weekend's Sunday games and the following 3 weeks. $197. Call Lee's NFL Sunday Golden Ticket and a UFC card. We actually lost last week, one of our worst cards ever. We've still won 18 of the last 24 UFC cards. It starts early, 8 a.m. on Saturday morning from Qatar. So I like the card so much. It's 5 selections plus a big underdog bonus selection. How about this? Not 55 or 25 or 35 bucks. $5. You heard me correct. $5. That's right. I just want to make sure you've got a pulse and a credit card. $5. I know if you come with me, you're gonna continue with me. $5. ParamountSports.com.
And before I let you go, Utah, Kansas State. senior day, maybe Kyle Whittingham's last home game at Rice Eccles ever. Utes are big-time favorites, 17.5 points. Can Kansas State even cover that?
It's going to be tough. And usually Kansas State used to be great road teams. I mean, listen to Chris Hyman, what he said. He might have meant something else. But he said after the game last week, their 14-6 win where they were +4 in turnover margin, he said, I'm not apologizing for a win in Stillwater because it's dang hard to win here. Earth to Coach Kleiman, OSU is 0-5 at home this year versus Division I teams. They lost the three other Big 12 hosting games by 18, 22, and 32 points. They were 0-4 in the Big 12 last year at home. I think Utah here can play to a certain level and beat down these medium to bad teams here. Their only losses were to 6th-ranked and 12th-ranked Texas Tech and BYU. They've scored 48, 42, 53, and 45 points in 4 of their 5 Big 12 wins here. And like I said, senior day, that's big here. Kansas State, I think, is just playing out the string here. Sometimes you got to lay it if you want to play it. Utes big, 38-13.
All right, he likes the Utes to win and cover. He likes the Cincinnati upset. He is really playing to the base here, and I love it, Lee Sterling. Always great talking to you, my friend. Thank you.
You too, buddy. Take care.
Sterling, best in the business handicapping these games. Even the possibility, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't agree with Cincinnati upset pick. But even the possibility of that happening and then suddenly Big 12 championship game, Texas Tech rematch being a potential outcome for Utah, it gets me pumped. All right, we got one more person walking up, throwing up the U. We're at the Smiths in Woods Cross. And coming up next, we've got Coordinator's Corner. Morgan Scally, the DC, joins us. After that, airing of grievances. Get your texting fingers ready, 877-353-0700. Get it off your chest before you head into what we expect to be a great weekend here in the state of Utah. Sean O'Connell Show, Hour 3, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Sean O'Connell Show continues here on a Football Friday. Time for Coordinator's Corner, brought to you by America First Credit Union, and we're lucky enough this week to be joined by the defensive coordinator, head coach in waiting, my friend Morgan Scally. Morgan, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Another week, brother. Another week preparing for a good opponent, and guys had a good week of practice. How are you doing?
Doing all right, man. Excited about the possibilities, excited about everything going on around this program right now, excited about the final home game of the season this weekend, which we'll get to here in just a second. But even though I know you coaches don't love looking back, you got to do it at least for radio purposes. Let's talk a little Utah Baylor. 55-28. And it was kind of a weird game, if I'm being honest, because Baylor was able to move the ball, but your defense came up with the stops and the turnovers when they needed to. How do you evaluate a performance like that one where your opponent puts up a lot more yardage than you're comfortable with, but, you know, you held them to 28 points, which is enough to get you a win?
Yeah, there's definitely things that you're not happy with in that game, and there's some things that game plan-wise, you're sitting there going, okay, we did what we wanted to do. Game plan-wise, there are not a lot of teams, because of the skill set of their wide receivers, this, from top to bottom, probably the most skilled wide receiver group in the Big 12. And so, that was a concern going in, as much man coverage as we play. And then the quarterback was really good. The quarterback was efficient. He wasn't necessarily fleet of foot like a good amount in the Big 12, but he is as good of a thrower as there is in the Big 12. And so that was a concern as well. There weren't a lot of people that pressured him. Not a ton of even five-man pressures out there versus Sawyer. And we knew that the insert run game was something that they did to us last year and that had some success with. So our whole plan was if he's going to be running the ball, we want a stacked box. If he's going to be throwing the ball, we want to be able to hit him. And so for the most part, we were able to do that. The two things that you come away from that game saying that's not nearly good enough, the 7 points you give up at the end of the half with some blown coverages, and then, a couple of the deep shots just because of technique. We knew that they were going to get, a couple chunk yardage plays with contested balls. They had good enough wideouts that they're going to make some, we're going to make some, but it was the stuff where we're not getting hands-on, we're not disrupting timing of routes. That was the stuff that you come away saying we got to be better there. Really did a nice job of hitting the quarterback, making him uncomfortable a little bit. Some too much yardage after the catch, missed tackles, poor tackling. But there's some, when you hold that quarterback to, I think it was 50% completion percentage, you get the two takeaways, you stop them on, I think it was 2 or 3 fourth downs. There's some really good things that came from that game. And like you said, it was kind of an interesting game. I don't know the last time that we've had 100 reps on defense.
That's a lot of snaps on that side of the ball. Wow.
Yeah, and so you look back and it's like, okay, well, you had the pick six, and so it's a quick turnaround. You had another setup, interception that set him up. A couple of long play touchdowns early for the offense, and so you're back out there on the field. So that was another reason for maybe the cumulative yardage is they were just on the field a lot more than normal because of the flow of the game, right? Whether it was, your offense goes 3 and out or they score early, you're just back on the field. And so, anyway, kind of like you said, kind of a weird game that way, but looking back on the film, too much yards after the catch, the 7 points before halftime, and then the just lack of technique on some of the deep shots. But I was really proud of our corners. We do a lot of this, and we put them on an island, and for the most part, I mean, you look at where we're at defensively in the country, I think we're top 10 pass defense efficiency, and a lot of that has to do with our corners and how they play man coverage. So really pleased with those guys throughout the season.
Can we talk about that group specifically for just a second? Because there's been plenty of years where you've coordinated a defense, where you've coached a unit that has kind of like a big name, like a guy that everyone in the country or everyone in the conference knows is good, All-America candidate, or even if it's not like a Clark Phillips type is who I'm thinking of in a situation like that. The people who know, like all of us who pay attention to the team, are like, all right, that guy's great, that they're going to be fine here. And coming in off of last year and then coming into this year, it was like, well, I think these guys are going to be pretty good. I don't know that the level of expectation matches how good your corners have ended up being this year. Is this the best year of coaching you've seen from Sharif Shaw? Is there something particularly unique about this group to where maybe they came in without the fanfare, but like you said, they've been kind of a top 10 unit efficiency-wise in the country? To what do we attribute that?
I think because you don't necessarily have that one guy that, all of them feel like they're contributing, and it's, you look at Donovan Saunders coming in, with early injuries, didn't play as much, and now you're seeing him show up. Blake Cotton gets better every single week and more confident every single week. And you're going up against good wide receivers. And when you're going up against really good wide receivers, the Tyson kid from Arizona State, the kid at Colorado, I mean, you name it. There's good wide receivers on every team, and the accumulated reps that you're getting and you seeing yourself on film making these plays, holding your own with, zero pressure, no deep help. They've just gained confidence week after week after week. And, also it's the mental toughness, the ability to let that one go. I gave one up there. Scooby Davis, perfect example of a guy that, early on let something, and then all of a sudden you get the pick six, right? He poor technique, and all of a sudden, okay, let that one go. He got one on me. Boom, next rep, pick six. So, Sharif has done an unbelievable job with these guys, and it just starts with technique. It starts with behavior and mental toughness, understanding in this scheme. You've got to be a dog. You've got to be able to forget the bad stuff and move on the next play because you're going to get yours.
How will you compensate for the first half absence of Scooby? He's been really good.
He has. He's been really good, but still have the guys that have come in and stepped in for him, right? And that's something that you've seen throughout the season already, the different, amount of corners that have come in, gotten some reps. And Benny can do that, right? Smith can move to the nickel spot and play outside. Donovan Saunders, Blake Cotton, you saw the emergence of, J.C. Hart and Stokes. And so all these guys are guys that we feel comfortable with. And that's who this defense is. Next guy up, and Lander Barton, out for a half targeting, and Trey Reynolds comes in and has an unbelievable, first half. So it's what you have to do to win championships, is develop the depth enough that when the next guy comes in, there's no drop off in efficiency or productivity.
Last thing on Baylor, did you pay special attention or do anything special to cause such a bad game for Michael Trigg? He's been a big weapon for them, that tight end, and man, he was frustrated all day. He had the one big play, but bad body language all day from him. You could just tell that whatever your guys were doing was just absolutely getting under his skin. Was there any special part of the game plan to facilitate that?
No, not necessarily. I mean, what you're trying to do, man coverage is a disruption coverage. And if you do not disrupt, it doesn't work. Guys go free down the field, and so I thought our safeties, our backers did a really nice job of making sure his life was uncomfortable. That there were no free releases, that down the field he was being contacted and he was being disrupted. So really nice job, really collective effort there. But that's man coverage. Wide receivers, tight ends, they think in terms of steps. This is a 3-step slant. This is a 5-step, corner route. Or they think in terms of yards, right? This is a 12-yard comeback, a 10-yard dig. Well, when you get in their grill and you're being physical with all that stuff goes out the window. Because, now you've disrupted their steps. You've disrupted their yards. The quarterback has to hold on to the ball a little longer than your defensive line's getting to the quarterback or forcing him off his mark. So where we were successful on Saturday was when we were doing that in man coverage. And when we were not successful, that you saw that as well. A lack of contact, a lack of disruption, a lack of getting them off their mark.
Morgan Scally is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show for Coordinator's Corner, brought to you by America First Credit Union. Moving on to Kansas State. This is a K-State team that you look at the roster, they've got bodies, they've got some talent. The quarterback can do some really nice things with his arms and, of course, his legs. But it hasn't really translated to the win-loss success that obviously folks in Manhattan, Kansas would have hoped for this year. What are you seeing from Kansas State and their offense on film that kind of perks your interest?
Well, another athletic quarterback, and this one, he's got a live arm. He can sling it. So his ability to run, again, you have to account for that, particularly when they've got dedicated Q runs like they do. And where it's been unfortunate for them that's killed them. And you look at their game versus Texas Tech, they're playing well. They're matching scores, and it's just the giving the ball away. The turnovers have really been what have hurt them. They do a really nice job running the football. They've got good receiving threats and good receiving tight ends. That's another thing that can cause issues when all of a sudden these big body tight ends, they get out on air and they run routes like wide receivers. So they do a nice job. Matt Wells does a nice job of complementary football, running the ball, some play action off of it, some Q run game, where they've kind of just ended up, for lack of term, not being efficient, is giving the ball away in critical moments. And so I know it's been a point of emphasis for them, but so we got to be as disruptive, and we had 2 takeaways last week. We got to continue with that, flip the field for our offense, because they are a mentality team much like us. They want to run the football. They want to be physical. They are physical. And so, they're fighting to be bowl eligible. As you can see in this league, any team can beat any team. It's all about matchups, momentum. And so we got to do a good job of starting fast.
You mentioned Matt Wells. Is there any notable difference when you're calling plays against an offensive play caller who's at least kind of rubbed elbows with your coaching tree, knows guys that know your system, has coached against teams that run similar systems and things like that? Does it change the actual game at all?
What you try and do is you try and go back, and anytime we faced that coordinator, what was their mentality? Now, he's been to different places. He has different skill group. What Matt does a really good job of is, he's one of those coordinators who's going to take what he has and mold his offense after that. He's not, this is my offense, you have to fit into it. He does a pretty good job of making sure he utilizes his best players. So, the biggest thing obviously is, okay, well, what does he do versus man coverage? What has he traditionally done versus man coverage teams? You try and study that as much as possible. And obviously, we are going to be who we're going to be, but you have to have some wrinkles and have to, keep them off guard a little bit with what they're potentially going to show you.
The college football playoff rankings continue to show Utah a lot of respect, and I know that you got to go out and you got to win these final 2 games. but what's the message to the team? Is there a message to the team regarding kind of their place in that playoff picture as you get ready for just a couple more?
No. You know the deal. You were with us. And, 2004. Your focus is on that game, and there is talk, and you want to continue to be a part of that talk. Well, let's keep doing what's been getting us there, not get distracted by it. So we've got Kansas State, who's a really good opponent, and if you aren't preparing for them with everything you got, then guess what? Be prepared for disappointment.
Yeah.
And so it's always nice to be a part of the conversation. That's what you work for and work towards. But what has gotten you there, don't forget about that. All you can control is how you play on Saturday. You can't control what the pollsters say, what the fans say. It doesn't mean anything. What matters is what you do, behavior on Saturday, and that's what our guys are preparing for. We've got good leadership, good senior leadership, and we've had some really good practices. We're fired up for senior day too. I think everyone for the most part, you remember your senior day. I remember, that the game, it was against BYU at home, the crowd rushing the field, seeing your family, your friends, all that stuff. We've got some guys that have meant a lot to us, and we want to go out and win this one for them.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. You've got some really important figures in this program that they're trotting out one last time on the Rice-Eccles Stadium field, and there is, there's a certain level of emotion to that. You do have to stay focused on the task at hand, but as a coach, how do you help them manage the moment when it is the last time they get to play at home?
I think that if they don't know that by now, then it's not like anything I say now is going to make the difference. They understand what it takes to win football games, and whether it's senior day, whether it's whatever. I'm playing for my mom, I'm playing for my dad, I'm playing for my family. There's the emotions of the game. You have to focus on your assignment. And not let emotions rule you. Emotions are always going to be a part of the game, but let's properly direct those emotions to playing really good football. Scooby wishes he had not let his emotions affect him. And there's a guy right there that I love. Scooby Davis is a guy that's grown up in this program, and he knows that what he did was wrong. And, so I'm fired up for the second half for him, because he's going to come in with the attitude of, I need to prove myself to these guys that I'm the same guy.
If you think back to that really special final home game that you played in, did you know in that moment that you were a Utah lifer, that you were a guy that would be having a conversation in this capacity or something similar to this, another 20 years later?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm grateful for it. I can tell you that. Grateful for, really, it's the relationships that you're grateful for. Those are the things that you remember. Coaches say, "Oh, you're going to miss the two-a-days and the." I'm like, no, I don't. I don't miss two-a-days. I don't miss gassers. I hated gassers. I don't miss 5-minute periods that are 7 minutes long. That was a pet peeve of mine. But I miss the relationships. I miss being out there and competing in the relationships and the guys that mean so much to you and the things that you learn from them. So, this crew right here is going to always remember the special bond they had with one another.
So when you're a head coach, is a 5-minute practice period actually going to be 5 minutes, or will you find yourself fudging the times like every head coach in history has?
OC, I'm not a head coach, so I don't have to answer that question.
Well, I'm going to ask you whenever you are a head coach. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, look, there's a lot of speculation that this could be the last ride at Rice-Eccles for Kyle Whittingham. He won't tip the hand one way or another. He's not going to tell us in the media, certainly. Is there any indication in the building?
He's the head coach of Utah. and that's how it is. And until the time that he says I'm not the head coach at Utah, that's how we function. And we're here to beat Kansas State right now.
All right, dude. I love it. You're the man. I always appreciate you giving us some time, and we'll see you up there on Saturday.
Love you back, brother. Have a good one.
That's Morgan Scalley, defensive coordinator at the University of Utah. Coordinator's Corner brought to you by America First Credit Union. Well, let's get ready. Let's air some grievances. You know what we do on a Friday. It's the Sean O'Connell Show. ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. That's right. It's time to get that angst off your chest. If there's something that's been bothering you, just air your grievance. We'll do it publicly for you. We'll send it out into the world. And then you're unburdened as you head into a weekend that features some really big games. BYU Cincinnati, Utah Kansas State, Oregon USC. There's some UFC fights that are beginning in the morning tomorrow. They come all the way from Qatar, or I believe Qatar is the correct way to say that. 877-353-0700. That's how you get a hold of us. You can text us. You can call us. You can tweet at me at RealOC Sports. Air your grievances. Do it now. On the text line, 8471 says, my grievance today is I hate when I'm out of the office and they end up getting lunch for everyone. They all get to enjoy the nice food, but I don't. That happened to me today also. In our hot lunch, James Peterson stole my hot lunch because I'm out here on remote. It is, it's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it. Okay. Here's the thing. Missing out on free food is one of the worst first world problems I can come up with, where you find out that, oh, the office ordered in and everyone got whatever it was. Oh, that sounds great. They got BGR. Everyone got burgers grilled right. 1202 East Wilmington and Sugar House. And I'm out here slaving away in the cold. Yeah, missing out. That's a valid grievance to air. All right. Oh, this is a strange one from 4611. Grievance. I dislike mincemeat pie in Utah for Thanksgiving. It's not mincemeat. It's raisins, plums, and nuts. Gross. What? Okay. All right. That's next week problem. The pie conversation is a next week problem, but I'm here for you. I'm sorry, 4611, that you don't like the mincemeat pie.
Hey, no airing of grievances next week because Black Friday is also a holiday, and we got Utah football anyway, so it would have preempted the show anyway. So go ahead, I guess. Pre-air your Thanksgiving grievances. I don't know.
Yeah, if you want to pre-air Thanksgiving grievances, fine. We might have to do a special one on like Tuesday or something, just to get people, make sure that people are unburdened as they head into a family weekend. 1624 grievance. I understand that entertainment and sports entertainment are not the same, but how have so many people in the media industry not seen the Lord of the Rings series? It troubles me greatly. Yeah. I mean, you cannot count James and I among those who are uneducated in this front. That grievance feels like it's aimed at Spence and at Porter, because those guys are not they're not fans of Middle Earth, apparently. That's okay, valid grievance. And Spence, by the way, Spence Checketts is back in studio and heard that. So he knows. He knows that you're pointing that grievance at him. All right. 9438 says, oh, Spence, yeah, welcome to the show, Spence.
Hey, Sean, I'm here in studio. You're on remote, so I'm just keeping the seat warm. I'm sorry that I'm not a nerd. I don't know what else to say.
Don't do that, Spence. Don't do that. First of all, nerd is no longer an insult because nerds rule the world.
I want to be clear.
Okay?
I didn't mean it as an insult. And maybe if I was more of a nerd, I would be ruling the world. But I'm less of a nerd, and I'm super cool, and all I have to show for it is a sports talk radio show.
Yes. Well, guess what? I am a nerd, and I also have a sports talk radio show, Spence.
Yeah, but you also have a side gig where you're an excellent...
I weigh more than 200 pounds, so I'm also an adult.
Oh, see? Okay, so you're insulting me. Why are you insulting me now?
Well, I didn't say that being a child is an insult. See, that's what you just did.
No, not at all. See, I was complimenting you and the goober texter by saying you guys are nerds, and I'm not.
I suppose goober is also a compliment.
I could twist it if you wanted to.
Oh, wow.
Hey, good job with Morgan, by the way. Not changing gears. I don't want to interrupt the airing of grievances. I'm a huge fan of this segment, but great interview with Morgan today.
Oh, thank you. You can find it on ESPN700sports.com if you didn't hear it live on the ESPN 700 app.
Well, we've got
section.
Sorry, we've got Spence. Spence, do you have a grievance to air?
Yeah.
Huh. Pretty happy guy, more or less.
If you need time to think about it,
let me think about it, because
we can
bring
you back on.
I have a grievance. If you are the bro that drives a truck and you decide to stop at a parking lot and make everybody wait while you back your truck into a parking space, you suck.
All right.
I'm not anti-backing into a parking space. I'm anti-making other people wait while you do it.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's a lack of common courtesy. You can always air a grievance for that. And while we have Spence here, there's another grievance aimed at you. I promise.
Oh, sweet.
I don't solicit grievances specifically for Spence Checketts.
Bring
We've
it.
gotten a couple today.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Maybe not a grievance as much as a pet peeve, just from 94-38. But the way Spence talks about point spreads drives me crazy. Don't say 7.5 point. It sounds confusing and terrible. Say 7.5 point favorite.
Oh, I'm sorry that you're dumb and unable to keep up with numerical conversations, Texter. 7.5 point favorite. Okay, it's the same thing as 7.5. I could say 7 in the hook.
You know what? The parlance though is 7.5. So
I like 7.5 points because I can hold a couple of thoughts in my head at once. Sorry.
What? Fair enough. I'm going to echo the grievance, and you can respond as however you want.
What else? I could say 7 in a hook. It's the same thing. What other grievances? I want all of them. Bring them. Let's go.
2702, referring to championships as chips. Please stop.
Don't
call it the chip.
I don't do that. I'm with that texter. And also, while we're in this space, don't say natty. I hate that. Don't say natty. Don't say chip. That texter, I'm with that texter.
All right, great. 6680 says not enough snow in the mountains. Will they give partial refunds for the expensive ski passes? That's a grievance I haven't thought about.
I'm anti-snow, so I do not want the snow. I want this warm weather to last as long as it possibly can. But to his point, if you're gonna, what's the cost for a season pass now? It's got to be a couple thousand at this point.
Yeah, it's probably I imagine at some of these places it's got to be $2,500.
Texter, you can tell us how much you spent on your season pass because clearly you did buy one and you're upset about
I'll tell you
not
what,
enough
though,
snow.
If you
passes,
so
please.
That's a grievance. A day lift pass now is absurd.
Yeah.
I have not been in the skiing world in a long time, and now that we have kids and my wife likes to ski and I don't have any reason not to blow out my knees, for a long time that was my excuse. I was like, well, I'm an athlete, and so I don't want to risk anything. Now it doesn't matter if I'm in a wheelchair. So I have no excuse to not go skiing. My family came for Thanksgiving last year, and we took, everyone skiing or whatever. You got to take out a mortgage to go for a one-day pass. It's insane.
Can I follow up? I do think it matters whether or not you're in a wheelchair. I don't think that's anything you want to have happen in your life, Sean.
Okay, fair enough.
But yes, do they offer any sort of insurance with purchase of a season pass? I haven't bought a season pass in maybe 15 years. I honestly don't know.
I have no idea. I really don't know. And I guess it's probably just, it's a game you play when you're a slave to the slopes, when you just got to be up there. You got to be out there shredding the gnar. You hope that the gnar is there.
Well, we're talking about terms that annoy you, like natty and chip. I have a couple of snow bro friends that talk about getting up early so they can get the cheddar, and it pisses me off, dude. That will ruin a weekend for me.
If someone says get the cheddar.
Yeah, I got to leave. We're at dinner. I got to get up early, bro. I got to get the cheddar tomorrow. I'm like, shut up. You have ruined my entire weekend. Do not say that. That's another term.
I didn't even know that was a term that was used.
It's deep in the ski bro culture, but I've got a couple of those bros in my life, and I love them, but I do not like the way they talk. When two ski bros get in the same room with each other, they're speaking Finnish. I don't even know all these new terms. It's really weird.
Only Lowry Markkinen can understand. It's
indeed.
Perfect.
Yes, indeed.
Before I'm going to let you hear my grievance, my own personal grievance. Okay. I have a grievance with the very advanced science community in general because they know that we don't understand the thing they're talking about. So they just give us stuff, expect us to believe it. And then 2 years later, they're like, actually just kidding. So my latest is with the astrophysicists at NASA. So I don't know if you've been following this, but they've been tracking this extrastellar object that has been coming towards our solar system, right? It's called the 3-Eye Atlas. And they were like, hey, this thing is behaving in a way that defies the laws of physics. Sometimes it stops, sometimes it moves, and the plume behind it doesn't move like it should. And they're just telling it. We have to rely on their information. We don't have telescopes that can see 18 million miles away, right? So they're just like, hey, guys, this might be something different. This might be something that is comprised of elements that are not known to the human universe. This might be an alien spacecraft. We can only see little glimpses of it. And now, Spence, James, all of you out there, now they're trying to convince us, nope, just kidding. Regular comet. We were lying about all that stuff before. We just sent 3 probes out there, and they took photos from 18 million miles away, and we are able, through those photos, to say that, oh, this is just a regular comet. It's made of totally normal stuff. I get so sick of it when the advanced mathematicians and the black hole theorists and the NASA scientists are just like, hey, guys, this is what you need to know about the universe. And then they just come up with some new information to keep themselves relevant. Drives me insane. Grievance.
Nerd.
Yeah, it's terrible.
All right, so let's talk about the scientific method on the show today, Sean. Okay?
Okay.
Systematic process for acquiring knowledge about the world through observation and experimentation designed to ensure that findings are unbiased, reliable, and repeatable, but it's ever-changing, right? That's why it is a process where at one point maybe they find something they believe to be true, but that you continue to apply the scientific method, and it is fluid and sometimes, yes, confusing, Sean.
Well, I don't think that it's a scientific method question here. I think it's just they like to give us things to read. I think that their industry is just like all of ours, where they're looking for clicks. They're looking for eyeballs. They're looking for something that keeps them in the news.
Huh.
I think that NASA scientists are Stephen A. Smith, and they don't even believe what they're shouting about.
So at this point, now the scientists are basically the Kardashians.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're screwed.
Correct.
That's bad. That's bad news for all of us.
That's really bad. And that, speaking of reading, that was a really good reading of Google, Spence. And you read the scientific.
No,
method
that came straight from my brain.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I was spitting bars, as the kids would say. You bring up science, and you light a fire inside of me. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah,
you're right. I forgot I knew that about you.
Should we talk about objectivity and skepticism while we're in the space, or are we good?
I think we have a grievance again. No, never mind. Just kidding. Do you guys want to hear my grievance?
Yes, James.
Yes.
Bring the grievance.
So my grievance is when your 5-month-old baby sleeps until within a half hour of when your alarm is about to come off, is about to go off, and you're like, we were almost there. That happened this morning. We were so close, guys. And listen, I have to say this as I air this grievance. My wife and I are incredibly blessed. This baby likes to sleep, and he sleeps really well. And so it could be a lot worse, but those times where it's like, man, you couldn't have waited to turn over on your belly for another 20 minutes, guy. Come on.
You done screwed up here, James. Okay?
I know.
Grievance against you. First of all, you are not allowed to air grievances against infant babies.
That's fair.
Okay?
That's fair.
That's violation number 1
I'm sorry,
of the airing
Owen.
of grievances code. And grievance number 2 is I happen to know through our conversations that you are incredibly spoiled with how much your infant baby has already slept through the night. And fellow parents out there who probably didn't enjoy the luxury of having a 4-month-old baby sleeping through the night, the grievance is now aired on you, James, for not realizing how spoiled you are. My second child, she did not sleep through the night until she was almost 2. Did you hear me airing grievances? No.
Did you wake up with her, Sean, or did you leave that to your poor bride? Tell me the truth.
Spence, I will tell you the truth. I handle all things around early morning wake-ups, late nights, and middle of the night things. As soon as they're done breastfeeding, my wife is if sleeping were an Olympic event, she would win the gold every single year. She is a koala bear. She can just rest like a pro. So it's really, really hard to get her functioning if she's already in her REM sleep. And rather than fight that battle, I have just adjusted to the lack of sleep because it's just easier that way.
So are you airing a grievance against Kendall for her ability to sleep?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No,
Fair enough.
I celebrate her ability to do so. It's a wonderful talent to have. But you asked the question, and the answer is that waking up in the night, waking up in the morning, that's my thing.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, good for you.
I'm very impressed. Now, like James, I was blessed with a child that was actually a pretty good sleeper. But I will say, in the event where he would wake up, Shout out to my ex-wife. She was great about it because your boy over here was more or less asleep. So.
My older brother has 3 daughters like myself, and his wife just laughs at the. She's like, you could break into our house in the middle of the night, and your brother wouldn't wake up. He is gone. She's like, seriously, if your car alarm goes off, wakes everyone up, he doesn't know. So I was a deep sleeper at some point in my life. As soon as I had kids, no. Now I'm up, and that's fine because I can take it. You know, I'm built different, Spence, as you're aware.
Yeah, you are. There's no doubt about that. Oh, by the way, Coach Witt's birthday today. Am I seeing that? Is it Coach Witt's birthday? 66 today. Brett McMurphy has sent out a tweet.
That sounds right. Yeah,
All right.
I think it is. He was a little bit nonplussed when PK brought that up at the weekly press conference.
I don't know what's a PK. I don't know what that like penalty kick. Is that a soccer term? I don't know what a PK is.
No, you know Gerard Piqué. You've heard of him.
Oh my God! What a poll! Holy smokes! Soccer knowledge over here, Sean. Well done.
Yeah, see,
good poll.
I'm down with the beautiful game. You don't realize it.
Oh, I know you are.
I don't flex my knowledge all the time like you. I'm content just knowing things. I don't have to prove how much I know like Spence does.
Wait, you're saying I flex soccer knowledge?
You flex any knowledge you've got, bud.
Well, I mean,
it's just your nature.
Well, when you have this much knowledge, you just feel like you need to share it with the world. I feel like it would be selfish if I kept it to myself.
Hey, he can read the scientific method for you again if you want.
Wait, hold on. I closed the
that.
tab. Hold on. I got to open that back up.
All right. Well, I'm glad that we had Spence. We got to make this a more regular thing.
I'm down.
You're a great addition to the airing of grievances. And I'm glad we fixed your 7.5-point favorite thing.
No. In fact, no, here's what you have to understand about my personality type. Now I'm leaning into that more, okay? Because I will end with this. I will quote Adam Sandler from Wedding Singer. I have the microphone, so you will listen to every last word I have to say. This is one of my favorite segments you do. I'm thrilled to be a part of it, so thank you.
Yeah, airing of grievances. It's fun. Last call, 877-353-0700. If you want to get it off your chest, do it now. We'll take our final break. We'll come back to Smith's in Woods Cross. A beautiful day. One last Smith's gift card to give away. If you see me or you hear me, come up here and throw up the youth. Give us a go, Utes. We'll give you a Smith's gift card. And also, we're going to ask a trivia question in our next segment. We will give away a BGR gift card with that one. Sean O'Connell Show wrapping up next on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. Our trivia question today for a BGR Burgers Grilled Right gift card at 1202 East Wilmington is a callback to the first segment of the show when I was going over Utah versus Kansas State by the numbers. This Kansas State team is very much having the same kind of season that Utah had last year. And part of that is narrow scoring margins in most of their losses. That's the question, okay? Outside of the Texas Tech loss, I hammered this in the first segment. Take away the Texas Tech loss, the other losses on their schedule, the total points in all those losses that separated Kansas State and their opponents, total number of points in every loss they've had this season, aside from Texas Tech, was how many? 877-353-0700. We're talking narrow margins here. If you have that question, the correct answer to that question, then we will give you a Burgers Grilled Right gift card, 1202 East Wilmington Avenue in the heart of Sugar House. Tell them OC sent you. They're also going to hook you up with a discount on your lunch order or on your dinner order or on if you go in for like a breakfast type of burger, that order as well. Big thanks to everyone who aired their grievances today. Our guy Cole made sure that he snuck in with the BYU sucks grievance, which, yeah, he's dedicated at least.
You've got to understand, and Porter knows this. I legitimately have a little Ron Burgundy in me where if I'm reading something, I'm simply going to say what I'm reading. So if it says 7.5, I'm going to say 7.5. So much so, and this is a throwback to the olden days. You understand the whole lore of the famous Utah recruit Phil into blank, right? You know that story, correct?
I don't know that story.
Okay, so here's the story. We'll end with a little story time here. This was when this was back in the old like Bill and Spence days, like way back in the day when Bill and I were doing the show together before you had joined the station, and we didn't have a text line because it wasn't a thing. And then instantly the text line became a thing. So back in the day it was phone calls. We would take a lot of phone calls, and then suddenly we got the text line. And Bill was gone because he was traveling with the Utes, so I was hosting the show solo. And I'm like, all right, I've got an open segment here. Let's actually do the thing where we have people text in, and I'm going to read some of these texts, which I had never done before. And this guy sends in like, hey, Spence, really exciting news. Utah football is about to sign a 5-star recruit named Phil into blank. And, dude, it did not register for about 10 minutes. And I was like excitedly, Sean, you have to understand. I was like, enthusiastically breaking this news. I'm like, guys, you don't understand. Utah has a 5-star recruit named Phil into blank on the way. And finally, my producer was like, you moron. Do you not understand what you're saying? And then it hit me. But honestly, it took about 10 minutes. So there's a little Ron Burgundy with your boy where if it's on the script, I'm simply going to say what I'm reading.
All right. Well, still, you've been around the business long enough to know that it's 7.5 points.
You know what, Sean? I was just vulnerable. Why can't I be seen and heard on this radio station? I don't get it.
You have been seen.
Okay.
You have been heard.
Thank you.
And your behavior will still be criticized.
One more grievance. You told Morgan you love him. You never tell me you love me. Why?
Love you, Spence.
Okay, love you, Sean. Great show today.
Thanks for listening. It's 13 points, by the way. Correct answer has come in on the text line. Also, it's because you just mentioned a 5-star recruit. Big recruiting weekend for the Utes. A lot of visits, a lot of unofficial visits as well, including the Idaho tackle Fruitland, Idaho tackle who plays for Jordan Gross. Jordan Gross is his coach, Kelvin Obot, who is a big-time recruit in this upcoming class for Utah. He has been given a 5th star, 5-star recruit. Utah has not had bona fide 5-star recruits, ladies and gentlemen. So things are trending, we hope, in a positive direction for Utah on the recruiting trail and everywhere else. See you out of the game tomorrow, everybody. Make sure you're tuning in all day for the pregame coverage, starting with Porter and company 4 hours before kickoff. I'll see you out at Rice Eccles. Thanks for listening to the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.